The young man was surprised. Had he really been reborn before his college entrance exams? This was the kingdom of Xia, in Chung High School number 1. Third year, 7th grade. The boy was shocked. What horror had befallen him? Since ancient times, the people of the Blue Planet had suffered from a catastrophe known as the invasion of the Secret Kingdoms. The Secret Kingdoms were connected to another world inhabited by terrifying monsters. At times, they used rifts to invade the human world. Powerful monsters capable of destroying entire nations became a threat to all of humanity. To fight back, humanity developed a system of monster genes. By introducing them, it was possible to awaken the monster within and unlock natural talents. Only such warriors could save humanity. Because of this, they gained a higher status and honor unattainable for ordinary people. The Blue Planet entered an era where combat power was everything. Everything else took a back seat. Power was above all else. The introduction to the world was complete. The master of the body is Yi He. Memories are being loaded. The young man was disappointed. Had he really become a high school student? His classmates looked at the young man and said that this trash had had another nightmare. Did this loser really want to take college entrance exams? A classmate asked why Yi He didn't just quit school and go home. He could become a laborer and work until the end of his days. The boy thought that in every story about bullying the main character, there is always a main witch. Apparently, the original owner of the body did not have the best reputation in class. His parents were in an accident in his 2nd year of school, which caused him to stop studying and training. His good grades slipped, and he became a burden to the class. And he stared at one spot and thought, the first owner didn't study, but now he has to suffer. Why did he get such an unpopular and humiliating life? The teacher asked if the students were ready. Soon they would begin administering the genetic modification serum, and they needed to be confident. 3 years of physical training and combat energy training had been conducted for this very day. And he believed that he had been an attentive student all this time, so the teacher would treat him favorably. Our hero decided that since he had ended up in this young man's body, he simply had to put his life in order. The students gathered in the hall for the gene injection. Everyone was curious to see what they would awaken as: a 3rd level mountain splitter or a 4th level sea dragon. The serum for awakening the genes was ready. It contained the primary genes of all magical monsters ever recorded by human warriors. The teacher said that after the injection, one gene would be awakened at random. Usually, the stronger a person is physically, the more powerful their awakened gene will be. The teacher began calling out names, and the students approached one by one to receive their injections. He was surprised. Why were they acting so strangely after the injection? Apparently, it would not be easy for him either. He confidently decided that he had to endure everything and approach the teacher. The injection was administered. The teacher looked at Yi He and said that nothing had changed in the boy. The young man suggested that the serum might have been wrong. The school's most beautiful girl said that nothing had awakened in Li He at all. The girl added that an unawakened warrior was like a bird without wings. Li He was simply doomed. Now he was not obliged to become a warrior. He could go home and live out his life alone. Li He thought that this girl annoyed him very much because she was the instigator of his bullying. The young man's body suddenly changed and he felt a strange sensation. He had received the infinite monster gene. The girl told Li He not to pretend because he hadn't awakened. The boy replied that she'd better leave now or it would be too late. Ai He shouted loudly, stood up to his full height, and a huge monster appeared above him. Everyone present was blown away in different directions by the excess energy. They saw a powerful aura, but who had awakened? The A-rank gene, Demola's Crazy Flame, had awakened. Among its abilities were Scorching Breath, Molten Pulse, and Spore Absorption. The young man said that it was the gene of an infinite monster. He was surprised. Had he really hit the jackpot in this system? His classmates couldn't believe their eyes. Was this really the loser Yi He? He used his aura to scatter everyone nearby. Even the beautiful Wang Sik was knocked unconscious. She awakened a 2nd-level magical monster, a scorpion with fiery claws. But what gene did he awaken? Yi He apologized to those present. The young man explained that he had asked them to move away, but they did not listen to him. That is why the awakening happened. There were casualties. An announcement was made over the loudspeaker that all students should go to the testing building to check the awakened monster's gene and martial arts level. The students approached the device for detecting awakened genes. This device could determine the gene of a magical monster and the level of martial arts. Li Xingyuan awakened the lineage of a third-level magical beast, the swift spinal beetle. Before awakening, he was average, but now he was number one. Chudo truly deserved the title of best student in the class. He had a 9th-level martial arts skill and had awakened the highest third-level bloodline, the Ice Demon Dragon. He was the favorite to win the city championship. Ms. Liu has a 9th-level martial arts skill and a rare 4th-level bloodline, the Underworld Sparrow. If a 4th-level monster appears in its true form, it will destroy the city. Warriors will be like ants in front of it. He thought that their awakened monster genes were classified as level 3 or level 4. But why did he have an A rank? Next, Li He's student appeared. Those present felt a strong and powerful pressure emanating from him. The young man thought that this world really revolved around power. Li He approached the device for detecting awakened genes. Li He was found to have a 3rd-class martial arts gene. However, the monster's lineage was unknown. Those present began to laugh. Was he really that weak? Yi He realized that his gene could not be recognized. However, a hint about the infinite monster gene appeared. The level of his gene was different from the others. This meant that by completing tasks, he could increase the level of the infinite monster gene. Wasn't he now the king of monsters? The teacher was surprised. Did he really want to switch to homeschooling and then return for the college entrance exam? No one would believe that he would study at home. The student continued to insist that he wanted to become better. He knew he was too far behind, so now he needed to go through special training. If he followed the same path as everyone else, he would have no chance. The teacher said that if Li He wanted to become a warrior, the only way was to go to college. He knew that Li He had awakened his lineage, but his foundation was too weak. The young man would never be able to pass the entrance exam, so he had to be prepared to stay for a 2nd year and try again. Li He replied to the teacher that he desperately wanted to improve. He had awakened a powerful lineage and definitely had a chance to succeed if he worked hard. The young man added that if the teacher looked into his honest eyes, it would be immediately clear that he was not lying. The teacher agreed. Yihe left school. His parents' house had been mortgaged and compensation had been received for the accident. The young man thought he had a decent amount of startup capital. To become stronger, he had 2 options. The first was to improve his combat skills, and the second was to increase his level of interaction with the Demola gene. According to the data from the infinite monster gene, each day of awakening gives 1% compatibility, but Demola had as much as 3%. There was only one answer. Demola's gene absorbed the power of the genetic awakening serum and gained another 2% compatibility, and he thought that this proved that gene-related serums in this world could enhance the capabilities of genes. The young man decided to spend money on increasing his genetic compatibility. He had to hurry and buy a genetically enhancing serum. He scanned his student ID and entered the area where only students with awakened lineages were allowed. After awakening the crazy flame of Demola, the young man received his unique sensory ability, the magnetic field of life. Demola could sense the life signals emitted by creatures by releasing his own magnetic field. And he clearly felt the warrior's chi and blood burning inside them, as if in a millstone, mixed with the animal roars of their ancestry. The protagonist could no longer suppress his desire to fight. Crazy Demola, the king of beasts. He was destined to conquer all living things on this planet. A girl approached he and told him not to stare so intently at others. The young man apologized and said it wasn't intentional. The girl suggested that he had probably recently awakened his monster gene and was therefore unable to control his powers yet. But what brought him to the warrior center? He replied that he wanted to buy gene drugs, but the center was too big and he didn't know where to go. The girl was surprised. Was he really going to use gene drugs at this stage? She pointed out that gene drugs were expensive and could easily cause resistance. To get the maximum effect, warriors usually wait until their lineage reaches a dead end before using drugs. The girl added that at his level, the guy could only use a potion for beginners of the hard type. It costs about 400,000, and she was surprised. Why so expensive? He couldn't afford to buy 5 even if he spent all his savings. The guy asked who could give him a discount. The girl handed him a business card. On the recommendation of a veteran warrior, he would be able to get some kind of discount. The girl's name was Huang He Li. She thanked her. The girl suggested that they might see each other again. Late in the evening in the dormitory, the young man activated the beast gene Demola's crazy flame. Now the young man knew what it felt like to level up. With each sip of the gene drug, his physical form improved. As a result, he became stronger, albeit only slightly. The more powerful his body became, the more difficult it was to induce further basic mutations. In just a few minutes, the guy achieved what others would have worked for 3 years to achieve. And that was just using the basic characteristics. And he thought that he really had a chance to pass the exam with the highest score. The protagonist went to a secret dimension. Secret dimensions are ranked from S to E. The higher the class, the stronger the beast inside. S-class beasts are completely uncontrollable by humans. If they ever invade the real world, it will be an apocalyptic disaster. Engine number 3, Secret Dimension E-class. There were fewer people here than the young man had expected. This dimension had been developed too long ago. It was old, and all the treasures had already been taken from here. Only weak beasts remained, intended for training beginners. He approached the administrator and said that he had booked a ticket to Secret Dimension number 3. The administrator asked the young man to sign a warning about the possibility of death, after which he would receive his ticket. Our hero saw what the rift of the secret dimension was like. This was the beginning of his ascent to becoming the king of beasts. Although the young man had seen what secret dimensions looked like in textbooks, it was nothing compared to seeing them in person. And he raised his head and thought that he could even see the starry sky. A beast crept up behind the young man. It was a first-ranked beast, a saber-toothed rabbit. The rabbit made a furious leap and opened its huge mouth. Hi dodged to the side and grabbed the rabbit by the ears. The young man was surprised. Did the beast really think he wouldn't sense it? The gene's ability, the magnetic field of life, was activated. Our hero got his hands on the saber-toothed rabbit's magic core. It was white, medium quality, and worth about 1,000. The young man earned that money within a minute of entering. It was pretty effective. And he thought that collecting too many first-ranked beast cores was pointless. It was better to find at least second-ranked beasts. A second-ranked beast appeared, the demonic undead devourer. And he took out his blade and said that this beast had appeared at just the right moment. In Chen number 3, Secret E-class dimension, Yeha continued to fight fiercely against the demon devourer of the undead. Hiei recalled information from the monster encyclopedia. Compared to the steel-like shell on its back, the soft armor on the demon devourer of undead's belly was much easier to pierce. Yi Hui applied his martial arts skill and attacked the monster. The next moment, the monster counterattacked, and the young man barely managed to dodge the blow. The boy realized that at his current level of martial arts, he could do almost nothing against this monster. Without the support of powerful techniques, even with the deep energy of Dan Tian and the vitality of blood, he could barely use 50% of his strength. All because his original body was a complete failure at learning. And she activated the Imperial Demon's bloodline, Crazy Demola. Yishi realized that with his current stats, he could completely destroy the second-level Demon Devourer of the Undead. After deactivating the transformation, he still had to release excess heat, which made the young man feel like a jet engine. Could it be that the energy consumption from his first monster hunt was so high? On top of that, he felt very hungry. And she smelled the magical core. The demonic undead devourer's core was green and exuded an enticing aroma. The young man swallowed the core, and his compatibility increased by 1%. The guy thought that he had spent hundreds of thousands on gene potions, and they had only increased his compatibility by 1%. The young man decided to turn his disappointment into motivation. Tonight, he would hunt as much as he wanted. The magical field of life was activated, and she realized that after reaching 9% compatibility, further absorption of white magic cores would no longer increase it. In that case, at least it was worth getting some money for them. At the Crystal Reception Center, the young man said he had 20 white magic cores and 1 green one. The receptionist was surprised. Could an ordinary high school student really collect so many magic cores? According to government regulations, warriors are required to surrender 1/10 of their loot. For 1 green core, 5 white ones must be given up. Our hero received 200 in cash. There were 9 days left before the college entrance exam. In Chen number 4, Secret Dimension D class, A colleague told Captain Lin that this time they would be able to deal with the bloody jade flower because during the last expedition, they found its location. Second-class warrior Lin, he replied that there was no need to worry. He had contacted the agency to introduce them to a new warrior. And she thought that since he was still a student and did not have the right to enter secret D-class dimensions, he had to use an underground agency to create a fake identity and join the team. It cost 100,000. Lin Shi admitted that it was a rather strange name. Yishi said that he had no choice. If he used his real name, it could violate copyright laws. Lin Shi replied that it was not worth paying attention to, as it was just a code name anyway. With the strength of a 9th-level novice warrior, the young man was indeed not suitable for the secret D-class dimension. The team would allow him to observe and learn, but he must not interfere. The team got into the car and set off. This time, they had to find the blood jade flower. The tracker showed that the bloody jade flower was in the oasis ahead. It was guarded by second-class monsters with a common-level pedigree. And she thought that last time it was a rainforest, and now it was a desert. It seemed that the secret dimensions were not connected to just one world. The assistant noticed that earth demon rats were following the car. The captain ordered the assistant to take care of these predators. The young man used throwing knives against the rats. After a while, the assistant reported that the earth demon rats had been destroyed. Yi knew that when combat energy was infused into a throwing knife, it exploded like a bomb upon impact. The commander's assistant was a ruthless and taciturn man. And she wondered, why are they walking? After all, the oasis is still far away. The assistant explained that highly sensitive monsters live in the oasis, and the sound of a running engine could alert them. The commander assigned duties even before arriving at the destination, and he was only supposed to observe. Suddenly, a flashbang grenade containing the pheromones of a high-level monster flew into the sky. A second-level beast appeared, an earth dragon. The commander warned the rookie to be careful. The monster was approaching. One of the participants rejoiced at the appearance of the dragon and even licked the blade of his knife. The hunters attacked the monster. Everyone acted according to their assigned task. After a while, it became clear that the earth dragon had been destroyed. None of the people were hurt. The captain said they needed to move forward, but suddenly the monster's huge paw appeared above him. The protagonist reacted the fastest. Using his unique abilities, he managed to strike the beast. The girl admitted that the young man's mountain-shattering heavy fist had deactivated the monster. He had dealt with a second-class magical beast, and she reported to Captain Lin Shi that the earth dragon had been defeated. The hunters said that this time they had also managed to obtain the essence of the earth dragon's soul. An excellent catch. He thought that this red glowing thing looked like a large fruit. This item could significantly improve the gene. Lin He said that this time they were on the verge of death, but they managed to defeat the dragon and find the blood crystal. The captain replied that there was no point in thinking about that now. At that moment, he was attacked from behind and stabbed in the stomach. Other people appeared nearby. One of them said that the guy with the knife clearly wanted to get rich. The hunters recognized him as Huo Peng, and she asked the team members if they knew this bald man. The hunter replied that Huo Peng steals loot found in dimensions from warriors. Now this scoundrel had his eye on them. The captain said that the guy's blade was poisoned. But how did he know about this place? Even his teammates only learned about the location of the bloody jade flower after entering the dimension. And she realized that the necessary information was sealed in the dart. The villain said that the young man was very smart. Why didn't he go back to school? College entrance exams were about to begin. There was no need to risk his life here. Ishii replied that the vile scoundrel standing before him was a real upstart. The young man decided that it was too noisy here and that it was time to get rid of the trash. Hopeng said that this guy was very interesting and that he needed to take control of his mind. Hud shouted that he would deal with the young man himself and activated his infected blades against the hero. And she thought that this was the perfect chance to try out his new skill and directed a powerful beam at his opponent. Hood was deactivated. The captain was surprised. Had the newcomer really defeated Hood with just one strike? Was he really a newcomer? Hupeng understood what was going on and asked which great family the young man came from. After all, it was genetic engineering. Aishi said he was from the Demola clan and asked if his opponent planned to beg for mercy. Hopeng was indignant, stating that even with genetic engineering, The young man would not be able to overcome this huge gap in combat skills. Huopeng's enormous energy beast, a bloodthirsty bear, appeared above him. Yishi said that he would first attack the beast's paws and directed a powerful beam at his opponent. The young man realized that second-level warriors were indeed strong. His scorching breath couldn't even melt the bone in his opponent's ankle. Yishi jumped on Huopeng's back and said he would try to attack him in a different way. As a result of his active actions and aggressive pressure, Huopeng was deactivated and collapsed to the ground. Huopeng, breathing heavily, asked if the young man had a genetic technique that released toxic gas. It was disgusting, and such a young man must be punished. And she was surprised. Who was he to threaten punishment? The Central Sports Stadium of the city of Anne. The host welcomed the students to the annual entrance ceremony of the General Higher Martial Arts School. The exam was conducted in a competition format. Candidates competed in pairs, and the winners advanced to the next round. Each student participated in 3 matches during the selection process. Those who passed successfully continued to fight until the best participant in this year's entrance exam was determined. The competition host said that potential fighters carry the future of humanity on their shoulders. They must show their true potential for themselves and for all of humanity. In the first and fourth arenas, the fights had already begun and were in full swing. In arena number 6, there was only one opponent so far. The second candidate had not yet arrived. The host announced that the participants in the 6th arena were Wang Sik and Yi He from City School number 1. Only Wang Sik was in the ring. If Yi He did not show up, he would be counted as having lost by technical defeat. Wang Sik said that being made a fool of at the genetics conference was the greatest shame of her life. She was counting on using her salamander to humiliate Li He this time. However, this guy hid and didn't even show up. He's a real loser. The audience whispered that Li He was indeed a coward and must be hiding and trembling with fear right now. He has no business studying in high school. He'd be better off sweeping the streets. The judge signaled and announced that time was up. Li He did not show up. Suddenly, the spectators looked up and saw something approaching from above. What was that huge aura? Could it be him? What kind of power allows a person to fly through the sky? Wang Sik instinctively put her hands forward, protecting herself from the approaching power. Li He appeared and immediately kicked the girl in the jaw, throwing her far back. The protagonist thought that a little more, and he would have to return next year. Wang Sik was deactivated, and Yi He was victorious. Yi He said that Captain Lin gave him the blood jade flower as a token of gratitude. It took him some time to improve his physical abilities. Now the audience could enjoy what would happen next. The table showed which participants were advancing. Long Tao from City number 4 Middle School competed against Yi Shi. The protagonist won. Yi Shi from City number 1 Middle School won all 3 matches and advanced to the final round. Those who wanted to chat approached the young man and offered to get acquainted. There were also those who wanted to invite the young man to various universities. Yi He apologized and said he wanted to attend Huadu University. He wasn't interested in anything else. People turned around and began to disperse. Yi He was surprised. Did they not believe that he would succeed? Huadu was the best martial arts university in the kingdom of Xia. Yi He thought that in a city like this, only a select few were able to enter this sacred ground. All warriors speak the language of strength. What would those around him say when he took first place? Special agents approached our hero. They showed their IDs and asked the young man to cooperate. They were going to redefine the young man's martial arts level. During the test, he was found to be at the 9th level of martial arts. The officers said that candidate Yi He was actually a 3rd-level warrior just 2 weeks ago. It is impossible to level up so quickly. After checking, they discovered that the young man had been going to a secret E-class dimension after leaving school. Li He replied that he did it to find himself. His father left him a message. If the boy wants to surpass humanity, he must surpass human strength. That is why he went to the secret dimension and fought. In one of the battles, he broke through his own genetic barrier. The special agents were extremely surprised to receive such contradictory information. They thought it was impossible. In any case, this should be reported immediately to higher management, and he himself could not understand how he had become the subject of surveillance. Live broadcasts were conducted with interviews of the candidates' parents and friends. He thought that he had no one who could support him. No one cared about him. The first match of the promotion round was announced. Yi Shi was invited to the arena. His opponent was Luo Shuang from City Middle School number 3. The audience determined that Luo Shuang was an 8th-level warrior. He awakened a rare 2nd-level magical beast. Yishi suggested that his opponent attack first. Luo Shuang was surprised. Did Yishi not know who he was facing? The protagonist noted that this would not change the outcome of the fight. Luo Shuang said that his opponent was right. The outcome would not change. He would definitely win. Luo Shuang expressed hope that his opponent would be lucky, otherwise he would die here. Yishi grabbed his opponent's clawed paw and said that he had good momentum, but he was far from the power of the bald old man. Luo Shuang was attacked and fell heavily to the ground, damaging the sports arena's surface. After that, Yishi looked at the stands and asked if there were really no worthy opponents. The referee declared Yishi the winner. Another quick defeat was recorded. This time, the defeated was the representative of the qualifying round, Luo Shuang. The audience said that our hero was as calm as a cloud and as steady as the wind. This is a sign of true mastery. His skills are on a completely different level than those of the other candidates. The gap is simply enormous. The audience was delighted and expressed their sympathy for him. A young man standing nearby watched our hero's fights closely. The young man said that this was the person he had his eye on. He hoped to defeat Yi He in the final. The live broadcast hall of the Huadu University Admissions Committee. The director ordered that all information about this man, Yi Shi, be gathered within half an hour. In the second arena, in the second group, the qualifying competitions were in full swing. A battle between two stunning beauties was unfolding there. Kai Shaolin, known as the Queen, said she couldn't stand the robot-like expression on the face of her rival, the young Miss Lu. Lu Qingzhu, the unattainable flower lass, was, as always, cool-headed and confident. After the referee's whistle, Kai Shaolin swung her arm and prepared to strike her rival. She wanted to see how Lu Qingzhu would continue to control herself. The girls faced each other with dignity, demonstrating their martial arts skills and individual abilities. Kai Shaolin urged her opponent to be more serious, because this was an important competition. At some point, Kai Shaolin realized that she had fallen into a trap. Her arm was stuck in the vortex of air created by her opponent. Now she couldn't free herself. The competition host said that the Xuanhuan combat skill had been demonstrated. The college applicant had mastered the Xuanhuan technique. With such a level of combat talent, she didn't even need to take the exams. Kai Shaolin summoned her combat beast, the Fire Tiger. Everyone understood that this girl had truly awakened the 3rd-level royal bloodline. Claw of the Tiger King. Royal bloodlines are difficult to control. This girl's future is limitless. Kai Shaolin said she wanted to see her rival's Phoenix bloodline. Kai Shaolin shouted that no one below the level of a martial arts master could challenge her. The host said that the fighting energies of Lu Qingzhu and Kai Shaolin collided with tremendous force. The arena was enveloped in a cloud of dust from the impact. Who would emerge victorious in the end? When the smoke cleared, everyone saw Kai Shaolin. The girl was still standing on the field. However, in the next moment, Kai Shaolin staggered and fell exhausted. Liu Qingzhu emerged from the smoke. This girl, using only her fighting skills, completely defeated Kai Shaolin and awakened her royal lineage. She is worthy of being called a genius who is born once in a century. The next participant in the draw was named Yi Shi. Shen Guan from Qingfeng Private School drew a ball and said that he was also in the same group. This meant that they would meet face to face. Shen Guan suggested that his opponent watch the first battle, which would take place on another field. Luozi was strong. He had stayed on for a second year and had been training specifically to enter Huadu University. Shen Guan said that this guy didn't stand a chance against Chuzhou. The opponent was Chuzhou, the winner of the first senior high school, Ancheng, the same school our hero attended. The principal of Qingfeng Private School was furious. After all, they had lost from the very beginning. And she asked his opponent how this Luozi compared to him. Shen Guan said that he was the president of the martial arts club in the graduating class. Even his 2 teammates couldn't beat him. Shen Guan said that since childhood, he had had an unusually keen sense of smell. He felt that Yi Shi was like a dormant volcano. Inside this guy lived a beast. The competition host announced the second match of the top 8, Shinkan versus Ishii. The opponents were equally strong. The confrontation continued, but neither had an advantage. Shen Guan said that it was truly mysterious to be able to directly destroy cells. Ishii thought that his opponent had used his fighting energy to create a barrier on the surface of his body. This barrier protected against nuclear radiation. Shengun said that his opponent possessed an amazing skill. This guy was a real monster, not to be trifled with. Shen Guan said that in that case, he would demonstrate the martial arts passed down from generation to generation by the Shen family. A huge snake appeared from under the warrior's arm, and Shi thought that his opponent was very fast. Our hero did not have time to dodge and received a devastating blow to the chest. The protagonist began to cough, and blood appeared from his mouth. It was immediately clear how strong Shen Guan's fist was. Shen Guan summoned the ferocious bear again and said that his opponent would not be able to escape his wrath. And Shi thought that Shen Guan's attack was not just physical. He integrated combat energy into his body, causing double damage. Compared to this, his previous opponents had no experience fighting a truly strong opponent. Shen Guan said that this guy was half right. He could not only infuse combat energy into his body, but also block his opponent's energy. As a result, Yi Shi would not be able to use martial arts. Shen Guan, supported by the beast, now a fire tiger, continued to attack our hero. The bully delivered a crushing blow, and Yi He flew far to the side. Yi He tried to block his opponent's attacks. Shen Guan said that he would be the winner in this fight. After another series of blows, Shen Guan said it was great. The medical staff outside were about to enter the arena. The combination of blows that Shen Guan had just used would have destroyed even an ordinary martial artist. The announcer said that the winner of this fight was most likely already decided. However, even the audience felt that a tremendous aura emanated from the cloud of dust that had risen. Instead of Yi Shi, a monster appeared and said that his opponent was indeed strong. Yi Shi added that if it was any consolation to Shen Guan, he was the first person to see him in this form. Shen Guan thought that he was looking at the incarnation of a magical beast. He did not expect that there was a genius of noble descent in this small town. Could it really be the incarnation of a magical beast? Shen Guan was forced to admit that his opponent's awakening was beyond compare. Each examiner would be equipped with headphones to monitor the candidates and a number of factors inside and outside the examination room. The elder said that the nuclear radiation was currently off the charts. Seeing Yi Shi transform into a magical beast, the examiners discovered the problem. They enveloped the arena in battle energy to prevent the leakage of nuclear radiation. The audience was surprised. Was this really the awakening of Yi He's bloodline? Does anyone know the bloodline of the magical beast he awakened? Earlier, it was said that he awakened an unknown bloodline. The young man thought that it seemed that there were no creatures like Daimor on the blue star. Shen Guan noticed that his nose was bleeding again. It seemed that his martial arts shield could no longer block Yi Shi's energy. He couldn't drag out this fight any longer. Shen Guan gathered his strength and attacked his opponent once again. The protagonist blocked his opponent's blow, and Shen Guan's arm was seriously injured. The warrior thought that if he hadn't released his power in time, his entire arm would have been shattered. Yi Shi said that his opponent was magnificent, but that couldn't change the situation. The competition host announced that in the second battle of the top 8 in the entrance exams, the third-level royal bloodline had been revealed. On the other hand, the unknown power of the magical beast bloodline, which is very rare to encounter, had manifested itself. Shen Guan thought that after his opponent's lineage awakened, his strength became simply incomprehensible. The warrior was no longer able to suppress his fighting energy. The only way to succeed was to retreat. The magical beast told the big guy not to get distracted. Now it was Yi Shi's turn to attack his opponent. Shen Guan grabbed his opponent's arm and said that he couldn't move the guy, but his goal was to move behind him. At that moment, our hero activated a magic shield behind his back to block his opponent's attacks. Yi Shi turned to face his opponent and said that now it was his turn to attack. However, completely unexpectedly, Shen Guan lowered his hands and obediently knelt down. After that, Shen Guan bowed to his opponent and told his older brother that he was giving up. Yi Shi was furious. The young man said that he was ready to strike, but his opponent decided to give up at that moment. The protagonist added that he now had strange feelings. What should he do? Yi Shi added that, holding back his accumulated energy, he felt quite strange. The young man understood that according to the rules, if one side surrenders, the other has no right to attack. He looked like a human again, and the magical beast disappeared. The competition was over. Yi Shi won. Yi Shi was recognized as the best candidate in this year's entrance exams. The director of the private school was furious again because he had high hopes for Shen Guan. The principal asked how Shen Guan dared to admit defeat. Did he know how much money had been spent on his education? The principal said that this student had to pay off his debt before he could enter college. Shen Guan said that he could not withstand his opponent's blow and admitted defeat so as not to harm himself. If he had not admitted defeat, would the principal have been willing to take the blow for him? Shen Guan added that he would repay the kindness he had received in the future. But the principal cannot threaten a warrior who is superior to him in strength. The director calmed down and said that the student was right. After a fierce struggle, the top 4 in the college entrance exams were determined. The administration was delighted. The chairman said that Old Man Liu had worked at the school for a very long time, and it was time to promote him. The semifinal draw began. The young man drew a ball and realized that he was again in the first arena. Liu Qingzhu said that she would also be competing in the first arena. The first match of the entrance exam semifinals was an internal battle for the title of Best High School. It was He Shi against Liu Qingzhu. The audience began to intensely discuss who would be the winner of this competition. Many began to place bets on the outcome of this match on the polymer market. Many believed that thanks to his pedigree, Yi He was undoubtedly superior to his opponent. However, there were also opponents of this statement. The arena of the semi-final battle, the first match. The audience was looking forward to an exciting battle. The referee introduced the representatives of the first middle school, Liu Qingzhu and Yi Shi. The referee raised his hand and announced that the fight was about to begin. Yi He activated her unique abilities, and thick smoke appeared in half of the arena. The outline of a person could be seen through the clouds of smoke. The girl wondered, what form would her opponent take? Liu Qingzhu hoped that Yi Shi would be strong enough to stand up to her. The host said that immediately after the start of the fight, Yi He released a large amount of smoke that enveloped the entire arena. The audience was puzzled. Why can't we see anything? What is going on there? The host wondered, could it be that Yi Shi had reawakened his ancestry? Yi He thought that Liu Qingzhu was far superior to him in martial arts. With her magical skills, no matter how great his power was, he would not be able to harm her. Yi Shi understood that such a martial arts genius had very high combat intelligence. The longer the fight lasted, the more disadvantageous it would be for him. The young man decided that he had to go all out from the very beginning. Yi activated the Fist of Fury and rushed at the girl to attack. Liu Qingzhu thought that if the guy started attacking, she would use her martial arts to defend herself and counterattack. It was a reasonable decision from a martial arts point of view. However, our hero performed an evasive maneuver and struck the girl. Liu Qingzhu realized that her opponent had tricked her. The girl thought, Yi Shi said he would use his fists, but in the end he used a steel whip. Yi Shi continued to attack and this time swung his fist to strike. Liu Qingzhu blocked her opponent's attacks and realized that he was cheating. This guy doesn't even know what moral ethics are. Yi He fiercely pursued his opponent, and after another close encounter, punched her just above the stomach. Liu Qingzhu used her fighting energy to push Yi Shi away. Now she could break free from his grip. The girl saw that the young man's hands were covered with claws filled with fighting energy. She dodged the devastating blow once again. Yi Shi suddenly appeared in front of the girl and told his classmate Liu not to run away from him. Yi Shi delivered a series of crushing blows, and Liu Qingzhu was forced to go on the defensive. The girl wondered, wasn't he tired from these intense attacks? Did he really have such enormous physical strength? Liu Qingzhu had mastered 2 secret royal martial arts, one of which was the Liu family's secret defensive art, Floating Shadow. The girl thought that if she could use one of these techniques, she could escape Yi Shi's onslaught. However, the guy didn't give her a single chance. She wouldn't be able to hold out for long, otherwise she would fall off the platform and lose. The girl thought she had no choice. Her last trump card remained. Liu Qingzhu activated her unique skill, and wings appeared behind her back. It was the awakening of her lineage. Liu Qingzhu revealed her magical beast lineage for the first time, an unearthly bird. Liu Qingzhu told her classmate Yi Shi to be careful. In this form, she couldn't control her power. Yi Shi thanked the girl for warning him in time. Until now, he had only used half of his power. Now he would be able to give it his all. He turned around and saw his opponent attacking him from behind. The young man spun around sharply and struck back. Their fists collided, releasing a huge amount of excess energy upon contact. This was accompanied by a blinding flash. The girl was forced to fly backward. She even squinted because of the bright flash. He sank to the ground and, spewing lightning, prepared to attack. He began to transform into the summoned beast. Liu Qingzhu felt the energy fluctuate and decided that this was not good. The audience was puzzled. What was happening? Was Yixi's magical beast form gaining strength? The protruding spine on his back was accumulating enormous energy. Suddenly, the mayor of Ansheng, Huang Xing, appeared at the tournament. The mayor told the audience to watch closely. Today, the strongest champion in the history of this city would appear. The competition host said that Mayor Huang was there to protect the spectators. Liu Qingzhu stood in the arena with damaged wings, blood dripping from her wounds. The girl thought that this guy had really broken her feathered defense with just one blow. Was it even possible to defeat him? The girl remembered her childhood. Adults said that Liu Qingzhu was the hope and rebirth of the Liu family. All her ancestors were watching her, and she must not let them down. The girl's mother said that she had made every effort to educate her so that one day Qingzhu would revive their family. The girl could not be willful. Her mother said that her daughter must not only win the exam, but also continue to win in the future. Liu Qingzhu was once again forced to admit that her classmate Yi Shi was extremely strong. The girl thought that, faced with such a strong opponent, it would be quite acceptable to lose. Liu Qingzhu shouted that Yi Shi should take advantage of her fatigue. He should defeat her quickly. Liu Qingzhu approached the young man and struck him in the chest with her hand. Qingzhu was surprised. Why didn't her opponent dodge? Yi Shi asked Qingzhu's classmate where her fighting spirit had gone. The guy demanded that his opponent look him in the eyes. The young man shouted that he was going to win the title fairly and squarely. The guy attacked his opponent. Yi He said that Liu Qingzhu should start to take him seriously. Yi Shi beat the girl and told her to be more serious. Liu Qingzhu defended herself and thought he was a terrible person. Since childhood, no one had dared to beat her like this. The girl said that she had wanted to give him the victory for a long time. Why did he continue to fight? Liu Qingzhu got angry and shouted at the scoundrel not to hit the girl in the face. Yi Shi said that it would be better that way. If she didn't want to be beaten like that, she had to fight. Liu Qingzhu spread her wings again and prepared for battle. The girl activated the true form of the magical beast. She said she would defeat her classmate in her strongest form, just as he wished. Liu Qingzhu flapped her wings and rose up. Her whole appearance told the young man that he needed to prepare for defense. He thought, has his rival finally revealed the true form of her magical beast? Now things are taking an interesting turn. The protagonist said that in that case he couldn't underestimate her, and also took on the form of his magical beast. It was Yi Shi's physical skill, which combined the form of Dimmer and enhanced Qigong. It was given the name Nuclear Light Combat Body. Yi Shi proposed to have a real battle. Liu Qingzhu shouted loudly and activated a shockwave by changing the pressure in her lungs. Yi Shi went into a defensive stance, but the shockwave forced him to fly far back. The girl activated her defense waiver and revealed the strongest technique of the Liu family. She said she would face her opponent face to face. The atomic breath beam was activated. Liu Qingzhu said that she was using her ancestral ability. He's atomic breath, and Liu Qingzhu's unearthly blood spikes formed two powerful strikes. The host was surprised. Was such a clash possible? Mayor Huang Xing decided to use genetic technology. Huge barriers in the form of walls were put up. As a result of the impact, the walls were destroyed, but they mitigated the effects of the attack. If the mayor had not taken action, the audience could have been injured. Huang Xing thought that he had erected the triple-lay wall too hastily, and it was not as strong as usual. As a result of the attack, Yi Shi and Liu Qingzhu collided with each other. Who would have thought that there would be two incredibly strong candidates this year? The wounded girls said that the true body of the magical beast had exhausted its power. Liu Qingzhu said that she couldn't give up. She could still fight. Yi He approached his opponent closely. The girl thought that her blows had clearly hurt him, but he remained unharmed. Yi Shi said that if Qingzhu did not get rid of the radiation in her body, she would become crippled in the future. Qingzhu said she didn't want to fight him. Why was he so insistent on making her fight? Yi He asked if she really didn't want to fight him, or if she was just rebelling and refusing to admit her competitive spirit. The young man added that when Qingzhu fought, he could feel her desire to win. Qingzhu thought the young man was right. She had indeed been thinking about how to defeat him. That was why she had given up on defense and used all her strength. However, she hated fighting and wanted to lose to him as soon as possible. But during the fight, she had indeed felt that feeling. Liu Qingzhu felt excitement from the fight, not for anyone else, but only for herself. And she said that the girl had too many distracting thoughts. The young man noted that this was precisely why she lost. Qingzhu noticed that the radiation had disappeared and the wounds on her arm had healed. Yi Shi noted that she was the strongest opponent he had ever encountered. The young man added that the next time the opportunity arose, he really wanted to have the most honest fight with her. After the smoke cleared, Yi He appeared in the middle of the arena. He was still standing on the field. The first semi-final match was over. Lee He from Enchong First Middle School was the winner. In the second match, as expected, Chuzhou won. The climax of the Ancheng City College entrance exams is approaching. The battle for the title of the best. Lee He from Anchong First Middle School. This young man must fight Chuzhou, also from Ancheng First Middle School. The host announced that the final round of the entrance exams was about to begin. Chuzhou grabbed his sword and told his opponent to get ready. Lee He smiled and told his opponent to attack with all his might. Chuzhou swung his sword and rushed at his opponent. Yi He was confident and calmly waited for his opponent to approach. Chuzhou's clones were closing in from all sides. Zhou thought that this guy was too lazy to look for his real body, so he used simple and crude techniques, attacking all the clones in a row. Chuzhou realized that even with his defensive abilities, he couldn't fight Yi. He head-on. Was there anyone else his age who could fight this guy in hand-to-hand combat? He was a real monster. Chuzhou thought that if he couldn't fight his opponent in close combat, he would wear him down from a distance. Chuzhou activated his bloodline ability, the Ice Pulse. The audience was amazed. Did this guy really create an iceberg out of thin air? With such abilities, he was like the reincarnation of an ice dragon. The power of Chuzhou's Ice Pulse was so great that an iceberg formed on the field, and he found himself frozen inside. The sudden burst of such powerful ice force took a heavy toll on Chuzhou's body. The audience noticed that the iceberg was beginning to melt. Yi He appeared from the ice. Chuzhou was puzzled. How was this possible? How did he escape so easily? Yi He said that the power of the ice dragon had no effect on him. Our hero added that he was stronger than his opponent. Chuzhou also realized that the gap was too great and offered Yi Shi to take his final blow. This technique was the limit of his martial arts, and he had originally intended to use it against Liu Qingzhu. Chuzhou raised his sword high and activated his energy abilities, amplifying them many times over. Huang Hin realized that this was the power of the sword. But how old was this guy? Did he really possess such incredible strength? And Shi told his opponent that when he got a better sword in the future, he would get another chance. The sword was broken. Chuzhou sadly asked what chance he would have. Yi He replied that perhaps it would be slightly higher than the chance of becoming a successful simpleton. Chuzhou raised his hand and said he was giving up. The host announced that Yi He was the winner of the entrance exam finals. Everyone present began taking photos of the new champion and sharing them on social media. Lee He, the dark horse, truly remained a mystery until the very end. Photos of the winner adorned posters and billboards throughout the city. Everyone agreed that the level of the entrance exams this year was much higher than in previous years. Virtually no one will be able to surpass this guy in the future. The host said that after 3 days of bloody battles, the winner had finally been determined. Our hero thought that the minimum goal had been achieved. The host asked student Lee He. He had heard that his strength was the result of making up for lost time and accumulating power over time. Could the young man say anything to the listeners and viewers? Our hero first thanked his teacher. It was he who did not abandon him in trouble and encouraged him when he was at his lowest point. This gave him fighting spirit. With tears in his eyes, the teacher looked at the screen and said that he did not deserve this praise because he had not fulfilled his duties as a mentor well. The principal told the young man that if he promoted their school, he would be awarded a scholarship of $2 million. The protagonist said that he also wanted to thank the school and the principal. Without his wise guidance, this victory would not have been possible. And he raised his hand and said that he wanted to express his gratitude to himself. Without his personal diligence and wisdom, he would not be as successful as he is now. The young man received the title of Best Student and learned that he would be awarded a random ability. He tried to break away from the fans and journalists. The young man warned that he urgently needed to use the restroom. The young man stated that he did not have time to talk to reporters. Today, he would be unavailable. He ran on to an empty basketball court. The young man thought he had finally gotten rid of the reporters. Who would have thought that he was not limited to one template and could gain new opportunities through the reward system? The guy heard someone behind him congratulating him on his victory. Could it be a reporter again? The man said he was not a journalist, but from Huadu. The stranger suggested discussing the issue of genetic blocks, and she was extremely surprised. He hadn't unlocked any genetic blocks. The young man understood that all his abilities had been obtained through the blood of monsters. Could this stranger know about his powers? Who was he anyway? The stranger asked if Yi-He had heard the term genetic block from his father. Yi-He answered in the affirmative. According to his memories, that was indeed the case. The stranger asked if student Li-He wasn't curious to know how his father, an ordinary taxi driver, knew a term that was completely unrelated to his profession. The stranger handed the young man an envelope and said that because of his special position, Huadu could open a secret document for him. It was about Prometheus, a research institute that was once a giant in the field of genetic research on Blue Star. It was banned by a number of countries because of one incident. Therefore, many of its leading scientists were forced to hide their identities and go into hiding. Genetic blocking technology was once one of Prometheus' key projects, and she thought, could his father be a senior researcher at Prometheus? Could he himself be the result of its secret research? The stranger told the young man not to worry. They would not complicate his life. He had come here only to inform him of this. As a participant in the project, the young man had the right to know the truth. The stranger added that since Li-He was a key prospect in the country's education, they would always take care of his safety. Li-He said that this annoyed him. When a person becomes famous, they attract too much attention and bring on a lot of problems. Finally, the stranger left. In the entrance exams, our hero not only received a ticket to Huadu University, but also a 2 million scholarship from the director, as well as an additional bonus of 800,000. Most importantly, he can now choose a new major. And she could no longer wait and started the game. The young man saw a huge monster in front of him. He had never seen such a creature in his life. It was a D-rank specimen, a supergiant humanoid. Perhaps a combination of abilities. If you combine the gene of a supergiant humanoid with the gene of a Demora, you get an interesting result. And he decided that he would become the true king of monsters. The man called his colleague and said that he had personal matters to attend to and would not be completing the assignment. The man in the protective suit reported that, unfortunately, his brother's body had not been found in the secret kingdom. However, they found traces in the place where his signal was last detected. After checking, it turned out that there was a small amount of nuclear radiation present. The man remembered telling his younger brother not to get involved in the society's affairs. Why didn't he listen to his advice? The man looked at the TV screen. There was an image of Yi-He, the winner of the college entrance exam finals. The man thought that Huadu University would compete for the city's record-breaking genius. It was a pity that they would not be able to see him enroll. The protagonist was about to go to a secret dimension to test the new gene. But at that moment, a package was delivered to him. The author of the letter wrote that he wanted to join forces in the upcoming investigation. The young man was surprised. Who still writes letters? Could it be the time traveler? The city of Enchen, the mountain of redwood. A large crowd had gathered at the foot of the mountain. As expected, the new top-secret dimension proved to be very popular. Yi-He and Chuzhou greeted each other. Chuzhou said that Yi-He had become stronger again. Our hero did not expect Chuzhou to have such a keen sense of smell. The protagonist bought several gene preparations and increased the compatibility of the supergiant humanoid gene. Yi-He asked which university Chuzhou was going to apply to. The young man replied that he was interested in Huadu, and she suggested that they could become classmates. After these words, Chuzhou's mood soured a little. A message came in that the secret dimension was opening. Monsters appeared above the Redwood Mountain. Someone shouted that the secret dimension had opened. It was necessary to destroy the monster and fight away inside. Everyone who wanted to had the opportunity to enter the secret dimension of the Redwood Mountain. He and Chuzhou, along with other warriors, headed for the secret dimension. The young man smelled the sharp scent of blood. He assumed that it was an ambush by monsters. They must have been waiting for them here for a long time. All warriors, in accordance with national laws, must give priority to destroying monsters and resisting the monsters on the disc. Chuzhou activated his bloodline ability and began to fight the attacking monsters. He used his atomic explosive fist, and the monsters suffered severe damage. As a result, all the monsters were destroyed. Only Yi-He and Chuzhou remained on the battlefield. The protagonist noted that none of the monsters in this dimension were worth their effort. Chuzhou was surprised. Had this guy already destroyed so many enemies? It seemed as if the destroyed monsters had simply melted away. The young man had probably used powerful nuclear radiation, which was difficult to resist. Radiation directly attacks the cells of living beings. The warriors wondered why the battle ended so quickly. Could there be high-level fighters among them? Someone said that among them was the best attacker of the city from the entrance exams. But wasn't he a martial arts master? How could he destroy so many monsters? Someone shouted to drive all the monsters to the victor. He would defeat them. A signal came from the front line. The leader of the monster attack had been defeated. The warriors were victorious, and the monsters began to retreat. Chuju told the survivors that they had withstood the first wave of monsters. Initially, there were thousands of warriors, but now there were only about 800 left. Many were wounded. Yi He asked Chuzhou if there was a way to take all this wealth. Chuzhou was surprised. Where did the guy get so many nuclear monsters? The protagonist really did have a huge bag on his back. Chuzhou held out a storage ring and said that Yi He could put everything in it. Our hero had no idea that Chuzhou was so rich. The ring was worth tens of millions. The warriors shouted that boss Wu Xin and his friends had returned. This guy is capable of destroying Lord-level monsters. Otherwise, he would have died of exhaustion among the monsters long ago. Wu Xin addressed the hero, noting that he must have ranked first in the entrance exams. Wu Xin added that he heads the Silver Wolf martial arts group in Encheng. He had heard about the heroic deed from members of the group and would like to invite Yi Shi to join his group. Joining the group would not affect his college education and would give him access to various subsidies and benefits. Wu Sen offered to sign a contract for him to join the S-level group. A girl rode up to the young people on a fiery wild beast. She asked in surprise, "Did Wu Sen really rush here to get these guys?" The girl invited Yi Shi to join her martial arts group, Chengda. She guaranteed that after joining, the young man would be able to dispose of 15% of the group's training resources each month. Yi Shi replied that unfortunately he had not yet considered joining the group. The girl suggested that they just be friends for now. In the future, the young man could contact the group at any time. Shanda would always be waiting for him to join. Chuzhou said that after repelling the monster's attack, they could begin their free exploration. The forest was huge, so they needed to climb to the tops of the trees to survey the area and make a plan. From the treetops, the young people spotted a huge creature that struck their imagination. Yishi noted that they were still young and would be able to defeat these monsters and learn the whole truth about them in the coming years. Chuzhou thought that he himself would be frightened if he encountered unknown powerful creatures. However, Yi He would surely be victorious. He also noted that Yi He was not only strong in martial arts, but also possessed an unyielding willpower, a true warrior. Yi He thought that his life force could determine the distribution of life in this secret dimension. But in the southeast, there was amber, like a vacuum zone, completely empty. The young man reasoned, where there is smoke, there is fire. The stronger the wind and waves, the more valuable the fish. And he pointed in the direction of movement and said that Lakestad was located there. They needed to go there and look around. Near the lake, the young people saw other warriors, and she was surprised. Could it be that Yuli's sister was here? The girl asked, wasn't this the best attacker, and she? She didn't expect him to be so strong. Her colleagues asked Yuli to introduce them to this guy. Yi He asked how long Yuli had been at the lake. The girl replied that they had just arrived, and two of their friends who were good swimmers had gone down to the lake to scout the way. One of the young men emerged from the water and announced that they would become rich. He had hit the jackpot. The guy explained that there was a relic under the lake and they would make a fortune. Yuli said that was amazing. It meant they would be rich. And she asked what a relic was and why these people were so excited. Chuzhou explained that in secret dimensions, there were several mysterious buildings left behind by ancient civilizations. Experts call them relics. It was from them that the theoretical foundations of modern martial arts and many genetic technologies originated. The young man who emerged from the lake grabbed his sword and asked who these people were and how they dared to eavesdrop. Yuli told Yu Yang to stop immediately. These guys were the top scorers on the college entrance exams. Yuli explained that their strength far exceeded that of most warriors, so it would be good if they joined them. He said they would help explore the ruins. Yu Yi asked how they would divide the spoils. Yixi replied that they were just helping, so the spoils could be distributed in proportion to the effort put in. The greater the contribution, the higher the reward. Yu Yang agreed and allowed these people to join temporarily, but they should not hope for more. He noted that it was better not to make enemies because these young people could become great warriors. The squad descended to the bottom of the lake. Yu Yang explained that after passing through the cave, they would find ruins inside. Yu Yang looked around and asked in surprise where Wei was. After all, he had asked him to stay inside. The guy suggested that Wei might have found the treasure and left first. Yu Yang tried to contact him by radio and asked Li Wei to respond immediately. There was silence in response. He asked if they had checked for monster tracks when they found the cave. Yu Yang replied that they hadn't. They had set off all the decoy bombs, but no monsters had appeared. The girl said that the place seemed dangerous. Li Wei had disappeared. Should they continue their exploration? Yu Yang said they had to keep going. If they didn't go for the riches and fame right in front of them, they'd stay low-level warriors forever. He added that those who were afraid of dying should leave. Those who wanted to get rich should stay. No one wanted to go back. The squad set off in search of treasure. Yu Yang lit the way with a flashlight and noticed tracks ahead. Yi whispered to his companion that something was wrong here. Chuzhou agreed and added that the timing didn't add up. Huang Yuli pointed out that their team had arrived at the lake very recently, no more than 10 minutes ago. However, Yu Yang and Li Wei found this cave at the bottom of a huge lake and passing through it discovered a hidden path to the ruins. It seemed as if they had a cheat code, like turning on the map perspective in a game. Chuzhou said it was a trick. Should they warn Yuli and leave? He replied that there was no need to panic, he had a plan. The young people saw the monster's core. It had lost its luster and seemed to have been there for a long time. No wonder they hadn't encountered any sea monsters during their dive. They had long since been devoured. Yuli asked Yu Yan where the relic he had mentioned was. The girl was frightened and pointed upward. Li Wei's body was hanging from the vines. The guy was dead. Yu Yang fell to his knees, grabbed his head, and began to wail. Where is the relic? Why isn't it here? Where did it go? Suddenly, Yu Yang declared that the vines were to blame for everything, and that everyone should run away immediately. The next moment, Yu Yang's head exploded, and vines began to burst out of his body. The warriors were frightened and ran away. Had Yu Yang also died? He was surprised. Who would have thought that a monster could be so intelligent? After attacking the two fighters, it parasitized the brain of one of them, using him as bait to catch new prey. It seemed that they had been lured into the monster's hunting grounds. However, the monster blocked the path the humans had come from. Obviously, it didn't want anyone to escape. Chuzhou said he had seen such a monster controlling vines. It is a second-level royal-class monster, a ghostly demon vine. Huang Yuli pointed out that monsters of the royal class cannot be classified according to normal levels. This is not an enemy that first-level warriors can fight. He said he didn't care what level this monster was, he would tear it to pieces. Suddenly, the barrier exploded and shattered into pieces. A warrior appeared, declaring that he was here to destroy Yi Shi. He was an 8th-level warrior. QI and bloody smoke emanated from him. Yi He was surprised. Could someone else be seeking his death? The warrior had heard that someone had used nuclear radiation against the tide of monsters in the secret dimension of the Redwood Mountain. Then he realized that Yi He was here and figured out his location. So that Yi He wouldn't discover him, he followed the guy to the underground cave, hiding his tracks. He didn't expect the squad to spot him and block his path with a huge rock. He slowed his heartbeat and breathing, falling into a state of suspended animation. But Yi He still noticed him. He really is capable of putting the brothers from the Huo family in a hopeless situation. Yi He was surprised. Who was this person in front of him? The warrior suddenly burst in and started talking about something incomprehensible. Could they be acquainted? Huo shouted at Yi He to stop pretending and lunged at the hero. Suddenly, Huo realized that he was in the lair of the ghostly demon vine. Had Yi He lured him there and allowed the monster to deal with him? Huo realized that this was all part of Yi He's cunning plan. Huo engaged in battle with the monster vine. He noticed that the ghostly demonic vine absorbed his fighting energy and released neurotoxins. If he continued to fight it, he would surely die. How dare Yi He deceive him? The protagonist noticed that Huo was in great emotional turmoil, even though they had only just met. Huo said he was very annoyed because his target was Yi Shi, not the vine. Yuli shouted that they needed to escape. The cave could collapse from their fight. Yi He shouted for everyone to leave immediately and told Yuli to hurry up first. Huo shouted that these people had no hope of escaping from here. Chuzhou activated his soul-striking sword and told the villain not to even think about touching the people. As long as he was here, that would not happen. Huo declared that he was an 8th-level warrior. Did this guy really think anyone could hurt him? Yi Shi distracted Huo and asked where he was looking. The atomic explosive fist was activated and Huo flew to the side. Yishi told Shu Chu to leave. The opponent was a high-level warrior and it would be difficult to deal with him in their current state. He added that they should leave this big guy to him and he would take care of everything himself. Those who made it outside reported that the ghostly demonic vine had gone completely mad and stirred up the entire bottom of the lake. Yuli asked Chuzhou where Yishi was. The young man silently looked at the water. Who had been deactivated and was in extremely poor condition? Chuzhou and the others felt unbearable pressure emanating from the center of the lake. A huge explosion rang out over the lake, followed by thick smoke. The outline of a huge figure appeared in the smoke. Suddenly, Yishi appeared from the water and asked Chuzhou to lend him some clothes. Chuzhou asked what the explosion was. Yishi replied that a mysterious warrior was to blame for everything. He had brought a plasma bomb and died along with the ghostly demonic vine. Chuzhou was surprised. Wasn't that military contraband? Who could have access to such a thing? Moreover, the explosion was more powerful than a simple plasma bomb. Chuzhou noticed a giant figure in the smoke. She said that this was not the case. It was smoke from the explosion, and the rest was just the young man's imagination. Yishi thought that luckily they had managed to deceive their opponents. It would be bad if they found out about his ability to create monster templates. The guy realized that he had gone a little too far. The warrior was crushed to dust. The body was destroyed, but luckily he got the magical core of the ghostly demonic vine. Yuli said it was time to leave. She apologized for the young people following them in vain and promised to compensate them after leaving the secret dimension. And she replied that there was no need to stand on ceremony. He looked at Chuzhou and said that now was the time for the happy destruction of monsters. 3 days later, at the entrance to the secret dimension of Redwood Mountain, the young people continued hunting monsters. Yihei raised his head and saw a military transport plane flying overhead. In just a few days, this place had turned into a small town. Could it be that there were even planes here now? The infrastructure of the country of Xia was truly impressive. He brought a huge bag of crystals to the reception point. The girl asked him to be more careful because damaged items would not be profitable. He said he didn't have much time, and if he didn't hurry, it would be difficult for the girl to finish the assessment before noon. He took the storage ring off his finger and said that he was a professional. There should be no doubt about that. After that, the young man took many more bags of crystals out of the ring. The girl asked in surprise if the gentleman was finished. Was he really only here to transport the goods? He said that everything was ready now, but the girl needed to hurry up and count it all. The visitors were amazed to see how many treasures had appeared in the shop. There were things here that couldn't be found in ordinary stores. This guy was lucky. He had become rich overnight. And she thought that now that the green and white magic cores had no effect on him, he could sell them all. His biggest catch was 5 blue magic cores from third-class monsters and green cores with gold patterns obtained from a second-level demon boss. He decided that he had dealt with the magic cores, and now he just needed to find someone to sell the spiritual preparations to. An expensive car stopped in front of the hero. A man got out and introduced himself as Li Yu Tian, the head of the Pingy Pharmacy. The man said that he knew about the young man's extraction of spiritual preparations from the secret dimension of Redwood Mountain and wanted to know if Yi Shi would sell them to him. He was willing to purchase everything at a price above market value. Yi Shi wondered who could have leaked his personal information, but the young man thought that it didn't matter now. The buyer had come to him. As he left, the head of the pharmacy said that if Li He had any more drugs, he was willing to buy them all again. The young man received more than 7 million. But Yi He realized that money was nothing compared to the fact that he had increased his strength by a whole 10%. True strength lies in personal growth. Li He thought that Jen was even more picky than its host. It needed to be fed bloody jade fruit and enhanced genetic serums. All of these were high-end goods that couldn't even be bought anywhere. And she remembered that he had defeated Li Qingzhu and the others in the college entrance exams, relying solely on the Demola gene. But when it came to martial arts, he was nowhere near as good as those candidates. The young man decided that now he needed to master martial arts and shouted that he was going to see Old Man Deng. The boy arrived at the high school. The principal said he never thought Yi He would decide to visit his alma mater. Yi He was one of the best students at this school, as he had won the entrance exams. Li He offered the principal some medicinal wine brought from Mr. Li in Pinhe. It was not just a gift, but a sign of respect for his elders. The principal noted that the young man not only had an excellent character, but also respected his teachers. He said that he would like to learn powerful martial arts, but since he had not yet entered college, he could only ask the clans for help. The director asked why the young man would not wait for the start of classes, since the documents had already been submitted. Lee Hee admitted that he couldn't wait to become better. The principal promised to introduce him to the right people, because training should match the student's abilities. Lee Hee noted that rules are not always compatible with reality. The education system is fortunate to have someone like the principal who is capable of embracing change. The next day came. The director called the young man and said that everything had been arranged and that Yi Hee could come. The young man asked which family the director had asked for help. He was delighted. The Liu family had agreed to teach him their secret craft. On the outskirts of the city, the young man was speeding on a motorcycle with a girl behind him. The girl said that her brother Ji was very cool because he drove so fast. Yi Hee replied that he had even cooler tricks up his sleeve. Suddenly, a cyclist caught up with them and warned the biker not to get distracted at high speed. Otherwise, he could crash, and his loved ones would shed tears. Ji got angry. Did someone really want to compete on his old bike? Jai sped up and raced ahead. The girl noticed that it was manly. After a while, the cyclist overtook the motorcycle and said that they would see each other again. She was surprised. Since when were rental bikes so fast? The girl added that it seemed as if an airplane had flown by. And she arrived at his destination, got off his motorcycle, and said that, as expected of a family involved in martial arts, he saw a beautiful estate in front of him. The house was huge. The magnetic field of life detected the appearance of several powerful beings. The gate opened and a girl approached the young man. She greeted Yi Hee. Yi Hee asked if Liu Qingshu was not happy to see him. The girl replied that her mother had asked her to meet the young man and show him into the house. The head of the Liu clan, Lady Qin Lan, came down to meet him and greeted Yi Shi. Yi Hee saw the woman and thought that now he understood Prime Minister Cao Cao's fondness for other men's wives. Liu Qingzhu stood obediently in front of her mother. The girl wanted to explain something to her mother, but her mother asked Qingzhu to be quiet. Qin Lan told Qingzhu not to worry. The woman added that she had watched the live broadcast of her daughter's battle with Yi Shi. Her daughter had fought well. Even if the boy went to Huadu College, with his strength, he could turn out to be a dark horse, so she shouldn't blame herself. Qin Lan said that Qingzhu's brother didn't have enough potential to become the head of the Liu family. Only her daughter could take on those responsibilities. The woman added that, first and foremost, Qingzhu is a girl, and a very beautiful one at that. Due to the early death of their father, the family has no internal support. Because of this, they had to return to the small town of An. If someone from a more powerful family wants to marry Qingzhu, they will not be able to refuse. This also means that the Liu family will be destroyed and their centuries-old legacy passed on to strangers. The woman asked how her daughter would react if she introduced her to Yi Hee. The young man is quite strong, from a simple family, and has a bright future. He does not have incredible ambitions. Her daughter may not respond immediately, but they will be able to get used to each other. Qin Lan welcomed the young man into the Liu family. Yi Hee greeted him and handed him a gift. The woman told the high school principal to explain that the young man wanted to learn advanced martial arts, and Qingzhu would accompany him. Yi Hee was surprised. Did the woman agree so easily? Qin Lan added that her daughter would take him to the Liu family's training pavilion. Since their secrets could not be taken outside the pavilion, the young man had one day to learn. The woman said that there are 3 Zhuanhuang martial arts. Which one the young man masters depends entirely on him. She said he understood and thanked the Liu family in advance. The woman thought that the young man was thanking the Liu family, not her personally. It seemed that he wanted to connect with their clan. Excellent. The family would make sure he kept his promise. Qin Lan thought the young man was very clever. She felt uncomfortable under her gaze. On the way to the pavilion, the young man noticed that Qingzhu was avoiding his gaze for some reason. The girl replied that this was not the case. Yi Hee approached his classmate. Qingzhu saw this and blushed. Qingzhu jumped aside and asked why he had come so close. The young people approached a huge stone wall. Qingzhu said that this door was made of huali stone, a special material mined in a secret dimension. It absorbs attacks from Zhuanhuang masters. He asked if he could hit the stone. Qingzhu replied that he could try. The girl decided that the guy was very strange. Shouldn't he be amazed by the stone's properties? She noticed the glowing blue power again. bringing back unpleasant memories. He swung his fist and struck the wall. The result was 0 except for pain in his hand. The young man said it was strange. When he touched the stone, it felt like he had dipped his hand in the sea or mud. He felt the force of the blow being absorbed. Qingzhu offered to show him a place where he could choose a martial art. Qingzhu explained that martial arts were divided into subclasses: physical, defensive, horizontal techniques, sword mastery, and so on. When Yihei decided what he wanted, he would simply use the map. Yihei asked about the martial arts of Xunhuang. The girl said that they were in a small stone room and that the young man would need a card to access them. Qingzhu warned that Yihei would not master Xunhuang in one day. Progress is gradual. She believed that studying this martial art might not suit him and could give him books that would be more suitable. Yihei asked if Qingzhu was worried. The girl replied that she knew what she was doing and thought she didn't want to talk to him anymore. Qingzhu said that the room where the secrets of Xunhuang were hidden was even better protected. This black stone was incredibly rare. The doors opened and the young people entered. Yishi found himself in a room with several safes. Qingzhu noted that the young man could not master Xunhuang simply by observing. He had to feel the meaning embedded by the founder. If there was a conflict with his attributes, he would not be able to learn. The martial art of Xunhuang was a living organism. It chose its own disciples. And Ji felt like he was the chosen one, sent from heaven to master this art. He opened the safe and was surprised. Was Xunhuang not a book, but a statue? And Ji assumed the pose of a statue and thought, was this what Qingzhu meant when she said feel it? Did he succeed? Qingzhu said that it was not only statues, but also paintings, household utensils, anything that could convey meaning. It was a mysterious martial art. The girl added that only masters can imbue an object with meaning and pass it on to future generations. Qingzhu turned around and said that the rest was up to the young man. Yihe was surprised. The girl hadn't explained anything. She repeated that Yihe had to feel everything for himself. If it was meant to be, he would succeed. Yihe thought that if it was fate, then he might as well just sleep now and lay down on the floor. He reasoned that if he needed to feel it, then it must be the spiritual world. He currently had no fighting spirit, and the Demola gene was inactive. He was like an ordinary person. Fortunately, the monster gene was still with him. The statue said that only a real man could master Xunhuang. Otherwise, it would be better to rot in the ground. The statue ordered the young man to show his abilities. And she was surprised. The man was an exact copy of the statue. The man said that at night, when the storm comes, thousands of ghosts will rush here. The young man must protect General. He must not allow evil spirits to destroy the Bodhisattva. If he succeeds, he will gain the ability to protect his home. If he fails, he will go mad, devoured by spirits, and will no longer be able to practice martial arts. It is better to run while there is still time. And he understood that the test had begun. Water began to drip from above. With a sword in his hand, he faced a huge unknown creature. We thought that he would not be allowed to fight hundreds of spirits unarmed. The man explained that the hundreds of ghosts were evil spirits of mastery. An unremarkable guy was trying to break through the defenses of the destroyed Genon. He was looking for death. Another fool had come for the trial. The masters were getting worse every year. The master said that every time he has to collect the bodies of these losers. And he demonstrated his mastery of the sword and effectively repelled the attacks of the evil spirits. The master was surprised. Could it be that the ghosts don't even come close to him? Yihe suggested that the spirit world system automatically protects him and makes him invulnerable. The young man was delighted. That meant his body was now invincible. The man was surprised. The young man had not mastered the art, but he was still able to cope. How? Yihe said that he had simply trained hard. The master acknowledged that this was a good excuse. Since the young man was able to deal with ghosts, he would keep his promise and pass on the legacy. However, it all depended on whether the young man could accept it. The statue was destroyed, and a well opened at its base. The master said that the well contained the essence of all the destroyed evil spirits and the technique devil in the flesh. The well needed to be cleansed. And He jumped into the well without hesitation. The master thought that this was the first time he had seen a young man with such a unique personality. At the peak of his power, he was a hero who had passed the secret S-rank dimension. He lived using devil in the flesh and died. With age, his chi energy and blood stopped working together. Evil spirits took over and destroyed his loved ones. In order not to cause even more trouble, the master decided to destroy himself. Before his death, he created a vengeful ghost from his soul and imprisoned it in a statue. Even though the evil spirits had lost some of their power, a simple master could not cope with them. If the young man could subdue them, he would surpass himself in the devil in the flesh. Lu Qingzhu and her mother were in the observation room. The girl asked her mother what was happening. At that moment, Yi Shi was writhing on the floor in agony. Xinlan watched the young man's behavior with interest. Qingzhu noticed that when Yi Shi first fell asleep, he had a silly grin on his face, as if he were sleeping happily. Now he was twitching, his whole body bleeding. Xinlan said that the girl's grandfather had mastered the third art of Xunhuang in his old age. He had tried before, but did not expect the statue to reject him and injure him. The woman added that since then, no one in the Liu family had been able to master this martial art. Because this power is so unusual, it is impossible for an ordinary person to comprehend it. But how did Yi Shi manage to obtain the power of martial arts? Yi Hui woke up and shouted loudly with joy. Qingzhu suggested that this guy had mastered the art in a way that was completely different from what his mother had described. Yi thanked the master for teaching him. The master thought that this was the most talented person he had ever seen. Perhaps he would be able to learn the truth about the secret dimensions. None of his predecessors had been able to do this. Now it was up to the younger generation. Yi said that the master was mistaken, that he was simply cheating. The young man noticed that his flesh and blood had imprisoned the demon, and his whole body was now on fire. Even though his stats hadn't improved much, he had mastered the martial art of Xunhuang and would now be much stronger in battle. The women entered the room and Qinlan said, "Did the young man really manage to master this martial art?" The answer was yes. Qinlan asked, "How is that possible? If it were her daughter, she would have spent at least a week without sleep. Did the young man really master it in an hour while sleeping?" Qingzhu thought that people called her a genius, but now a real genius was standing in front of her. Yi assumed that the woman did not believe him. He was ready to show what he was now capable of. Li He demonstrated the evil spirit he had received in the spiritual world. It was like a spell in a video game that could be added to combat energy to make it more aggressive. Qingzhu was amazed by this power. She heard the spirit roar. Was this what Yi Shi had been talking about? Qinlan thought that this young man was truly something unimaginable. Yi thought that Qinlan's daughter was still nearby. A woman should be more reserved. He didn't want to be called the prime minister. Xinja said that Yi Shi had mastered one of the arts of Xunhuang. Doesn't he want to start learning the other two? He still has the whole day ahead of him. The woman thought her daughter was very naive. She said she didn't want to be with this guy, and now she was ready to give him all the family's wealth. You can't just throw away the Liu family's jewels like that. Yi Shi said that this was enough for him for now. He didn't need the rest. The young man added that it was time for him to go back. He had unfinished business at home. Qinlan told her daughter to let the guy go. The butler reported that the young man had come here on a bicycle. If he knows how to drive, he can choose any car from the garage and return on it. It will be more convenient. Yi remembered the motorcycle of the guy he met on his way here. That bike was very cool. Yi asked the lady if they had any motorcycles in the garage. The woman promised to give the young man the best motorcycle from her son's collection. The biker returned home and thought, Aunt Hong said that Mom invited her son-in-law over. I wonder who it is. His sister is very beautiful and talented, a beauty genius who comes along once in 100 years. No one can compare to her. The biker thought that the guy on the bike had really angered him by scaring away his girlfriend. He could pray that he would never see him again. The young man saw a man riding a motorcycle towards him. He thought in surprise, isn't that the cyclist? Why is he riding his motorcycle? And he thought that the monster balls were tasteless when eaten dry. Now the spices and seasonings were ready. He needed to add sauce to improve the taste. And he decided to try the blue core first. It should be quite pleasant with wasabi. The young man noticed that his overall stats had improved. He needed to pump something else up. In the secret dimension of the Mahogany Mountain, he used the gene of a huge humanoid. It was about 50 meters tall. Compared to ordinary monsters, it could be called a giant. And he thought, it needs to be bigger. I need to pump everything into the gene of a huge humanoid. Next, the young man decided to eat the golden core of a second-level demon. He shouted loudly from the unbearable pain, his whole body burning. It was unclear whether it was from the core or from excessive consumption of wasabi. The young man unlocked a special mutation. Ai thought that the mutation meant that the monster's gene would receive the attributes of other monsters. If the attribute was good, that would be great. If not, things would be bad. The young man agreed, and the gene was unlocked. It was an S-rank nuclear gene. When the insane gene reached compatibility, there was a chance it would turn into the starry universe of Demola. And he thought that sounded incredibly cool. He had to achieve compatibility as soon as possible. And he saw a bright flash outside the window. What could that be? Is someone attacking? Armed men appeared in the city. The commander ordered all entrances to be closed and not to let them leave. Every corner must be searched. There was a knock at the door. Lee He was surprised because he lived like a recluse. No one could come to him at a time like this. An unknown creature entered the young man's room through the window. He wondered what was going on. The visitor said that this guy was not so simple. The girl said that she originally just wanted to hide something and leave. But since he saw her, she would have to get rid of him. He thought that he had a lot of money and if necessary, he could buy another apartment. The girl asked what the guy was saying, and he said that this guest could consider herself dead. The military surrounded the civilian and reported that the enemy was resisting. He must be arrested. The man said that Yao Mei should take the golden gene. He, Zhou Yi, would cover for her. The man used a forbidden blood-burning technique and said that anyone who wanted to could now attack him. Suddenly, Yao Yimei appeared next to the man. He asked in surprise, "What happened? Wasn't her suit white? Why is it now coal black?" Yao Yimei said that she had hidden the item. Now they had to escape. There was an explosion. The fugitives found themselves near an abandoned building. Yao Yimei said that they had finally managed to get away from the police. Zhou Yi noticed that her armor had already been restored. Suddenly, the protagonist appeared nearby. The young man said, "This lovely lady never bothered to explain why she broke into his house. Perhaps they were targeting his neighbor, but mistakenly targeted him instead." He added that as a reward for trespassing on his property, he would have some fun with the two of them. Zhou Yi was surprised. How did this guy find them? Yihe could sense the radiation emanating from Yao Yimei's body. The young man said that if these two could fight, it was time to stop talking nonsense. Wishy said that this was a great opportunity to test the power of the devil incarnate. Zhou Yi thought he was in trouble, but it was too late. His opponent had already attacked him. After the blow, Zhou Yi bent over and began coughing up blood. Yao Yimei thought that this guy had excellent martial arts skills. She asked who his mentor was. Yishi replied that he had studied under Dimol. The girl thought she had never heard of him. She didn't know that such a tiny town could have so many talented masters. Zhou Yi told the boy not to get cocky because he was standing before a noble 6th-rank master. No weakling could compare to him. Zhou Yi turned into a monster and headed towards our hero. He didn't even blink. The protagonist said that he liked it even more that way. Yao Yimei crept up from behind and said that this guy didn't even expect her costume to be invisible. She was the real danger. Zhou Yi said that Yao Yimei was useless. She couldn't even arrange a garden, so he would have to deal with this guy himself. Yishi was surprised. Has this guy's defense really increased that much? Zhou Yi said that his true form was an armored rhino demon. He could withstand even tank fire. No one could defeat him. The rhino demon said that not only his defense had increased, but also his attack. A cloud of dust rose and our hero disappeared. Zhou Yi said that this guy shouldn't do anything because he couldn't compare to the Iron Rhinoceros anyway. He looked around and couldn't figure out where this guy had gone. Suddenly, a huge monster appeared in front of Zhou Yi. The rhinoceros was surprised. What was that? Zhou Yi asked in surprise where the demonic beast had come from. Did this guy transform? Yao Yimei became visible, frightened by the supergiant humanoid. The girl thought she had done something very foolish. Why did she provoke such a monster? Yao Yimei thought that her partner Zhou Yi might be severely beaten now. Because of this, she couldn't run away. All that was left was to fight to the end. A thread appeared in the girl's hands and she rushed at her opponent with it. It was a molecular thread drawn from nanobrush. It was strong enough to cut even high-quality alloys. Yao Yimei said that maybe this guy had become bigger thanks to some gene, but human weaknesses had not gone away. The molecular thread did not have the desired effect, and the supergiant humanoid was not harmed in the slightest. There was a powerful explosion, the flash of which illuminated everything around. The last thing Yao Yimei saw was a blinding blue light. When the smoke cleared, Yishi reappeared in human form. The young man approached the wounded Zhou Yi and said that now it was his turn. Zhou Yi declared that he was facing a monster. He no longer had the strength to resist. Yishi said that those who take the lives of others must be prepared to lose their own. Zhou Yi added that if he was destined to die, he would take this guy with him. He noted that Yao Yi Mei, who had just died, had hidden something at this guy's house. It was called the Golden Gene. Now this gene belonged to the guy, and he would be hunted for it. He had to run away. They would meet in hell. Yishi delivered a finishing blow to his opponent and said that he talked too much. Yihi thought that the police were already nearby and that he needed to get rid of the body as quickly as possible. Yihi looked at the hole in the neighboring building and thought that this time he had gone a little too far. Back home, our hero contacted Ms. Chin Lan and asked how the investigation was going. The woman said that it would be better for the young man to lie low for now and wait for the start of the academic year at the university. Yihe thought that he had warned Ms. Chin in advance. After all, with his signature explosion, the police would definitely pay attention to him. Yihe found what Yao Mei had hidden at his house. It was the very same golden gene they had talked about. The young man had seen this symbol before in the Prometheus file given to him by the man from Huadu. It was the logo of the biotechnology giant Laserbird, and he thought that these two had stolen this thing from them for which they were being persecuted. And he decided that apparently Zhou Yi had now dumped all these problems on him. Looking at the hole in the wall, the young man thought it was time to change his place of residence. Today, he could spend the night in a hotel. Secret Dimension B, the heart of Swan Lake. The female hunter asked about the prey. The young man replied that everything was fine, but the profit was still small. At the same time, the monster was destroyed, and a blue crystal was extracted from it. The female hunter told the captain that something was wrong. A huge monster appeared in the distance. There were several monsters, and they turned and headed straight for the hunters. A blood-eyed monkey, a 5th-level Lord-class demon monster, was approaching the humans. The hunters decided to retreat to warn the military. The Lord-class monster was leading a huge wave of beasts. The city would not survive this. They needed Master and Grandmaster level warriors. High-level monsters rarely left their territory. Why did it decide to invade here? The hunters increased their speed and began to run faster. An emergency situation had arisen. A Lord-class demon monster appeared in the secret dimension of Swan Lake. It was leading a wave of beasts. The people requested reinforcements as they couldn't handle it on their own. A huge rock crushed the hunter. No one could escape from the demon monster. The blood-eyed monkey said that the way to the city was open. Full speed ahead. Information came in that a huge wave of beasts in the secret dimension, Swan Lake, was approaching the city. Estimated time of arrival, 20 minutes. All troops were transferred to the front line to stop the invasion of monsters. All craftsmen were asked to help defend the city. Residents should not panic. Order must be maintained. There was commotion at the train station. An announcement was made that only children and students could board the train at this time. If the city fell, at least the children must survive. The mayor in his office asked if reinforcements had been requested and who had agreed to send troops. His assistant said that warnings about the wave of monsters were being issued throughout the country. Other cities could barely take care of themselves. The cities where no invasion was expected announced that they were going to build defensive structures to prevent possible disasters. The mayor asked if Huadu couldn't send even one grandmaster. Huangqing noted that a secret S-class dimension had appeared in Guanshan City, near Huadu. All the masters had been transferred there. There was no time. The battle for the city had already begun. Now they could only rely on themselves. In the sports arena, Yishi and Chuzhou practiced hand-to-hand combat techniques. Our hero said that today was not bad. His opponent was able to withstand his blow. Chuzhou asked when Yishi had learned the Xuanhuang technique. The protagonist replied that he had only been practicing this technique for a month. Chuzhou heard screams and said that something had happened in the city. In addition, a monster wave warning had been issued. Students preparing for university entrance exams have priority for evacuation. Yihe should take advantage of this right and head to the airport or train station to evacuate immediately. He asked if Chuzhou wasn't going. Chuzhou said that with this guy's talent, it would be better for him to evacuate. Hishi said that he was hearing a lot of unnecessary talk again. Since when did Chuzhou become so sentimental? Liu Qingzhu told her mother that she wanted to join the troops on the front lines and fight without sparing herself. Qin Lan asked how sure her daughter was that she would return alive. There are 30,000 martial artists in the city. Even if you count retirees and volunteers, there are barely 50,000 people. Against such a huge wave, they are like boats during a tsunami. The wave will swallow them whole. The woman added that this city was not capable of stopping a Lord-class monster. Only the great masters had a chance. Qingzhu's life belonged not only to her, but to her entire family. The girl said that a family that practices martial arts but is afraid to fight monsters does not deserve to survive. Qin Lan told An Hong that they were leaving the city. The woman asked what would happen to the boy Yishi. Qin Lan ordered a message to be sent to him. The boy must make his own decision. The secret dimension of Swan Lake. The warrior asked why old Chen had come here, since he was already in his 60s. Shouldn't he take his granddaughter to a safe place as soon as possible? Chen asked if colleagues like Zhang had come here. Why couldn't he? The old guard of fearless warriors brandishing their weapons rushed at the blood-eyed monkey and other monsters. The entrance to the secret dimension of Swan Lake. Military equipment cordoned off the area. This was the city's last line of defense. The army was put on full alert. They had to stop the monsters at all costs and not let them into the city. The mayor was informed that 60% of the city's military forces and all martial arts masters had entered the secret dimension. They are at the forefront and they have one task: to gather information about the wave of beasts and try to figure out the capabilities of the Lord and Overlord class monsters. A wounded warrior appeared before the militia. They shouted that a doctor needed to be called urgently. The wounded man arrived with a report for the mayor. The bleeding warrior handed over a flash drive and said that it contained all the data about the Battle of the Detachment on the front line. Huang Qing asked where everyone else was. The wounded soldier replied that unfortunately, everyone had died. He was the only one who had managed to survive. The soldier said that a wave of monsters had engulfed everything, leaving nothing behind, not even the bodies of the dead. The soldier warned that they should be wary of the monkey with bloodshot eyes. It had outsmarted everyone. Huge rocks began to fall on the city, set in motion by the red-eyed monkey. The monsters tried to blow up all the unfinished defensive structures, and so it came from a secret dimension. The mayor ordered the tanks to open fire to kill. The mayor thought that the enemies were not sending beasts, but were exhausting them with long-range attacks. Since when did monsters start using military tactics? Huang Qing cursed the monsters and wished them a quick death. The second wave of rockfall began, and the number of rocks increased. The rocks fell, destroying military equipment and causing damage to people nearby. The soldiers shouted that they were under attack and that extreme caution was necessary. The monsters were indeed within walking distance. The monsters attacked people, destroying everything alive that came their way. People realized that the stones were being used as capsules to transport demonic beasts. They flew through the entrance to the secret dimension, straight into the rear. The mayor of the city shouted that the stones must not be allowed to fall. This landing force must be intercepted while still in flight. The red-eyed monkey said that it was all over. Humanity no longer had the strength to resist. The monkey gave the order to his warriors to raze everything to the ground. The invasion of monsters continued with renewed vigor. The monsters, led by a huge monkey, approached the military equipment. The tanks fired continuously, but this could not stop the monsters. Our hero appeared on the roof of one of the buildings. The young man wondered what would become of this city after today, and he thought that he had grown to love this city and would not allow some monsters to destroy the wonderful life he had fought so hard for. He rushed down, transforming into a beast along the way. The young man decided to teach the monster a lesson. The warriors did well, destroying monsters in hand-to-hand combat. Brother Luo had already managed to destroy 5 demonic beasts. Kai Shaolin said that Luoshen was bragging too much, having destroyed only a few low-level monsters. It was better to remain silent. The young man asked Chuzhou if he could destroy a 3rd-level monster himself, which left a blue core in his hand. Chuzhou was surprised to meet these students here. Had they decided not to evacuate? The young man added that their parents were martial arts masters and were fighting on the front lines. Their children couldn't run away. Suddenly, a tank flew over Chuzhou's head. Luo Xuan shouted that there was danger above. Chuzhou managed to duck, and the tank flew past. Were tanks flying now? Kai Shaolin said that this tank was dropped by a Lord-class monster. But how could it have broken through to the rear? Chuzhou called for everyone to remain calm. He noted that the size and aura of this monster's lord were different. Suddenly, the monkey monster was attacked. The initiator of the attack was Yi Shi, who had transformed into a beast. The young man said it was time to test his teeth. Yi Shi opened the huge monkey's mouth and said that it smelled very bad. How many people had this monster swallowed? Our hero attacked the monster and added that it should rinse its mouth. The disciples were frightened. Chuzhou calmed everyone down and said that it was Yi Shi. Luoshan was surprised. Was this monster really Yi Shi? Chudu noted that the city was safe if Yi Shi had appeared here in this form. Yi Shi said that he would leave this location to Chuzhou and the others, and that he himself was going to help the military further. Yi Hui rose above all the buildings in the city and carefully assessed the situation. The young man noticed the place where the most monsters had gathered. The military fired continuously, but the huge monster was indestructible. The commander said that automatic weapons were useless here and that bayonets had to be used. The soldiers took out their blades and prepared for further combat. The brave warriors rushed into the attack again, swinging their blades and striking the monster. The attack ended with the soldiers dying, impaled on the huge monster's spikes. The assistant told the captain that they needed to retreat. They could no longer hold their defense. They were ordinary soldiers and could not defeat such monsters. The commander ordered them not to retreat. The commander declared that they must buy time until the arrival of the masters, even if it meant dying. The warriors, swords in hand, fought off not only the monsters but also the evil spirits. Suddenly, the huge monster was attacked by a powerful blue beam that pierced it through and through. As a result of the massive attack, the monster was destroyed. Following this, smaller creatures rushed into the attack. They were just as aggressive and numerous. And he, in the form of a beast, using his unique abilities, continued to methodically destroy the monsters. In another combat zone, the warriors were also waiting for reinforcements. The girl reported to the commander that Yi He had entered the battle. This young man was the best student in the city, but monsters surrounded him on all sides. The commander thought that this young man must not be allowed to die at the hands of the monsters. It was necessary to help the boy because he was still a child, even though he was their last hope. The squad commander ordered his men to shoot at the demonic beasts and protect the best student. As expected, the huge monkey was attacked by a powerful blue beam. The result of the attack was a huge hole in its head. The battlefield was a bloody mess. Not a single monster escaped alive. The squad commander shouted that caution was necessary. One of the Lord-class beasts was still alive, and they needed to defend themselves against it. Shouts could be heard from all around that humanity would prevail and the monsters would rot in hell. Reinforcements were already on their way. Suddenly, familiar walls appeared on the outskirts of the city. It was the work of Mayor Huang Qing. The mayor said that these walls were imbued with the energy of the earth. They could only hold back some of the monsters. To completely stop the invasion, the Lord had to be eliminated. A huge Lord-class monster attacked the mayor. The mayor activated his unique abilities and blocked the approaching monster's attack. Huang Qing flew a short distance away to be able to dodge subsequent attacks. The mayor noted that the king of the 4th-level Lord-class mountain giant crocodiles was the blood-eyed monkey's mount. If he had entered the battle, it meant that the monkey had become nervous. Mayor thought he was on the right track and continued his energy manipulations. The mayor knew that this monster was good at earth-type attacks. He deliberately used this. Huang Qing added that his opponent had taken the bait. Huang Qing continued to confront the giant monster, towering over the ruins of the destroyed city. The mayor had received information about the mountain crocodile in advance and evacuated the fighters in time. Otherwise, casualties would have been inevitable. The mayor said that if the monster had come out completely, it might have been spared. However, it only stuck its head out, and it was difficult to resist cutting it off. Huang Qing had to admit that this monster was worthy of the title of king. After all, it was even able to grow stone spikes on its body. The monster continued to watch the mayor from its hiding place. Huang Heng realized it was a trap, but it was too late. The monster grabbed the man by the head. The monkey said that this man was very stupid. What was he going to do with her pet? The monkey added that now it would crush the man's head so that everyone could see how insignificant they were in front of it. Suddenly, there was an explosion. The monkey said that even though the explosion happened instantly, she was already convinced that there were no more strong warriors left in the city. Now she could calmly destroy everything. As a result of the explosion, the mayor suffered minor injuries but survived. Huang Qing summoned his fire beast to confront the monkey monster. The monkey told the man that resistance was futile. He was just delaying the inevitable. The monkey added that there were no more enemies in this field. It had all turned into a game for her. A game that would plunge humanity into the abyss of fear and despair. The mayor's energy beast attacked the monkey. The monster noted that the power was not bad, but the speed left much to be desired. The monkey was not harmed by this attack. The monkey approached the mayor and demanded that he kneel. She didn't like it when inferior beings looked down on her. Huang Qing did not react and did not kneel. The monster wondered why the man was not afraid of him. The mayor asked, "Does the monster really think it is the smartest? It is just a conceited wild beast." The monkey was attacked by fire beams, and the mayor activated his unique abilities. The monkey cried out, "Could the man have lured it into a trap he had prepared in advance?" The monster said, "Does man really think he can lock me underground? That's too naive." The monster added that his opponent would not be able to keep him locked up forever. As soon as he weakened, he would have to blow everything up and smash it to pieces. Huang Qing said that this was not a backup plan, but a hymn to humanity, a hymn to courage. The monster was surprised. "What is my opponent doing?" The mayor took his heart out of his chest and said that at the beginning of the war, he had planted a nuclear warhead in the city. The trigger was implanted in his heart. If his heart stopped, the warhead would explode. The monster said, "The man is bluffing. Who would be willing to risk their life for such a thing? No one will believe him." Huang Qing stated that he had no intention of returning from the outset. Speaking to the townspeople, Huang Qing said he was ready to devote everything, including his life, to the town and its people. The mayor said he had done enough in his life. After that, a thermonuclear explosion occurred. A fiery mushroom cloud rose high above the clouds. The mushroom cloud soaring into the sky, like a tombstone, marked the end. Those who received the evacuation message froze in reverent silence. It was a funeral worthy of legends. The burned monkey couldn't believe that this man had almost destroyed her. She survived the explosion, or rather, what was left of her survived. The monster said he would destroy everyone in this city, destroy all of humanity in the most cruel way possible. First, he would return to the dimension of sin, and when he regained his vitality, he would come back here again. Suddenly, a question sounded behind the monster. "Where is he going?" The monster looked back and saw a huge beast. He remembered this creature. It was one of the main obstacles to the invasion of the beasts, the terrifying genius of humanity, and he regretted that he was a little late. The monster said that he was facing a foolish human genius. Instead of continuing to hide in his burrow, he decided to fight back. This was the perfect chance to get rid of the human. And he said that if the monster wanted to escape, his mini-bomb wouldn't be able to reach it. But apparently the monster had decided to die here. Ahei activated his blue beam of destruction again. There was another explosion on the outskirts of the city. Everyone saw a bright flash. Witnesses said that another nuclear bomb had exploded. Was this another trap set by their mayor? The monkey monster looked even worse after the next explosion. The victim said that his opponent was an even bigger monster. Even he, the monster lord, did not have such a terrifying aura as his opponent. The huge humanoid said that it was useless for the little monkey to run away from him. He would have to answer for it. The monkey gathered his strength and, attacking his opponent, said that one should not underestimate the lord. The monster attacked again. His opponent noted that this lord looked shabby, like a skinny jackal. And he thought that in his armored form, his overall physique was over 30. He didn't think he wouldn't be able to overpower his opponent with strength, but it wasn't enough. The monster was puzzled. He had put all his strength into the last blow, but his opponent had already managed to heal himself. This genius was impossible to defeat. The monkey monster turned around and, using his last ounce of strength, tried to run away. And she said that this monster did not deserve Mayor Huang Qing's sacrifice. The monkey was attacked again, and this time it took much more damage. The demonic beast said that the monkey had burrowed into the ground and pretended to be dead. The young man added that this meant the monster was afraid of being found. It was more severely wounded than ever before. This was an excellent chance to finish it off. Magical beasts of the Lord class could completely hide their presence. The young man thought that if he had discovered this monster earlier, perhaps the mayor would still be alive. But now he was seriously injured and his abilities were limited. Even the faintest signs of life from this monster could be seen. After a while, the demonic monster said that it had located the monkey. The monkey cursed a little more, and it would have reached the entrance to the dimension of sin. If it weren't for the mayor's trap, everything would have ended differently. The demonic beast said that this was the price for desecrating the mayor's memory. The monkey would regret that it was still alive. The monster said that his opponent should not feel lucky because he was a pathetic and insignificant insect. The monkey declared that he would use all the energy of his demonic core to send his opponent to hell. And she declared that after this desperate attack, the monster had reached its end. That was truly the end. Suddenly, the young man grabbed his head. All his thoughts were confused. A mental attack had been carried out on him. The guy was surprised. Are there really other masters here? Our hero heard someone tell him that he couldn't escape. The next moment, arms began to grow out of his joints. It was nonsense. The arms blocked his movement, and it was impossible to move. He felt that he was almost at the entrance, even despite the obstruction of his arms. The arms continued to cover his eyes and also prevented him from moving. The man was surprised. Where did this terrifying power come from? Could it also be the Lord? The fingers on his hand opened his eyes. The flame was reflected in his pupils. The young man thought he had already blocked the supergiant humanoid's hearing, but this strange cry still penetrated directly into his brain. And she said that he couldn't let the villain who had destroyed so many people get away. The supergiant humanoid shouted that his opponent had never even dreamed of this and activated his demonic energy again. He said that this was his delicacy, a nuclear bomb. He hoped that the monster would like it. The townspeople thought the mayor's plan had worked. The rift in the secret dimension seemed to explode. The monsters suddenly went berserk. They couldn't let the mayor's sacrifice go to waste. They had to pull themselves together and save the town. The remains of the monkey with bloody eyes were destroyed by a giant nuclear bomb. The flow of monsters was stopped. Martial arts masters gradually destroyed the remaining creatures. The siege lasted a whole day until all the monsters were destroyed. Only then did the warriors stop. The battle was won, but at a terrible cost. Many masters and soldiers were killed or wounded. The secret dimension Swan Lake became the site of a previous nuclear explosion, and he was exhausted and lay on the ground. After a while, the young man got up and wondered how long he had been unconscious. Although he had poured all his energy into the supergiant humanoid to cause a nuclear explosion, there was already a lot of nuclear radiation and residual energy from the nuclear pressure. He thought that the battle had already been very fierce. The mayor rushed into battle, lured the monkey into the explosion zone, and destroyed it. Thanks to this, he was able to take advantage and use self-destruction to finally blow up the monkey before it escaped. The gene of the infinite monster is strong, but it still cannot cope with a Lord-class monster. This victory is just a lucky coincidence. And she thought that if he had enough time, he could reach the peak of the Xia Kingdom's combat power. But recovery in the secret dimension took a long time. It is unknown when the chance to obtain a new gene will come. The only option was to speed up the collection of plant-type magic cores compatible with this gene. There was also the martial art of Xunhuang, a system for cultivating the world of high martial arts. And he suggested that he had been brought here for a specific purpose. A month had passed since the siege of the city. A large golden monument to the mayor of the city had been erected. 18 cities had been attacked by monsters, 12 of which had fallen completely. A secret dimension appeared in the city, and the entire city was shrouded in an impenetrable gray haze. The national organization, Great Dragon, sent top-level fighters and masters to investigate. This monster invasion was unusual, and even a secret S-level dimension appeared. The strongest martial arts master, the defender of the state, Fu Hongsheng, was forced to stay at the border of the secret dimension and died. He personally entered the city of Guanshan, and 8 hours later, seriously wounded, brought out 2 surviving masters. After that, the city became the 11th forbidden zone for life. Yishi said that even the defender of the state had died in battle. Had the situation of humanity on the Blue Star become so hopeless, it was no longer possible to wait. Yishi asked Ms. Qin for a favor. The woman asked, "Does he really want to learn the remaining 2 skills of the Liu family's Xunhuang?" While talking on the phone, the young man thought, "Is that really how I appear to Qin Lan?" He said he was calling about something else. He wanted to ask her to help him acquire several high-quality, Lord-class plant-type magic cores. The woman replied that plant-type magic beasts were very rare. Lord-class cores were extremely valuable. The young man's requests were very immodest. What could he offer in return? Yishi said that at the beginning of the school year at Huadu University, Freshmen take an exam in a secret dimension. He could team up with Qingzhu and help her take first place. The woman suggested that the young man was underestimating the geniuses from other provinces. Her daughter's strength had reached an average level. She would not reach the top. The young man was also inferior to the best geniuses. And he noticed that Mrs. Qin had entrusted him with the revival of the Liu family. He is ready to write a receipt. If he and Qingzhu do not take first place, he undertakes to work for the Liu family in any position and take care of them for the rest of his life. The woman agreed to these terms and said she would help the young man. At the central hospital in An, our hero rode his motorcycle up to the main entrance. Many people appeared at the entrance, eager to meet the school's best student and pay their respects. Yi He entered the ward and said that he was going to meet Chu Zhou, the most handsome man in the city. His day had come. Our hero said that he had gifts in his hands that he had just received from fans. Another patient in the ward greeted Yi He. Yi He asked who he was. The young man said his name was Luo Xuan. He was the first opponent in the qualifying tournament. Could Yi He have forgotten him already? Luo Xuan told the champion not to look at him like that. He wasn't completely hopeless. It was possible to perform surgery to restore his limb. Yi He thought that this Luo Xuan commanded his respect. After all, this guy had suffered at such a young age while defending his hometown. The phone rang. The young man said that the number of these calls was already off the charts. It was the school principal. He asked how Yi Shi could have blocked such an important person from Huadu. Yi Shi replied that he understood and would unblock him now. The phone rang again, this time from Wang Tao from the admissions committee at Huadu University. He said that the academic year would start a month earlier. A special train would come for the young man in 3 days. Did Yi Shi have any requests? Teacher Lu from the admissions committee contacted Chuzhou by phone. Yi Shi said he would trust the university's plan. Chuzhou told the teacher that he would arrive on time. Several days passed. The site of the nuclear explosion in Swan Lake was shrouded in a giant cloud of dust. Since it was the result of a nuclear explosion, a lot of dust was released into the atmosphere. The sky was covered with thick gray clouds for several kilometers, plunging the world into eternal night. The gene of the infinite monster was activated. The young man thought that after the battle with the monkey, his compatibility with Demola's crazy flame had increased by another 1.5%, which was very good. Considering the nuclear radiation and residual energy from the decay here, it was simply a paradise for training. Over the past 3 days, his compatibility had increased by another 6 points. Incredible progress. Chu Zhou recovered at the appointed time and arrived at the station to depart for the university. The train was scheduled to leave in 5 minutes. A few minutes before the train's departure, the protagonist appeared at the station. He exhaled and said that he had made it after all. The passengers on the train platform recognized the young man and were delighted. This guy was now the idol of many. They recognized his powerful aura. He was the pride of the city. Chuzhou acknowledged that Yi He had become stronger again. The protagonist thought that he would soon leave this city, the place where he had ended up after his rebirth, and started all over again. Li He said that he was now going to Huadu. Almost all the seats on the high-speed train were taken. Chu Zhou asked Yi He to behave a little more modestly. Yi Shi asked his companion, "Are these really the best of the best in this car?" Chu Zhou confirmed this and added that even this train was made of the most modern designs and materials, capable of easily withstanding an impact force of several thousand tons. At the same time, the train is guarded by at least 5 Xuanhuang masters. Perhaps there are also great masters here keeping order. After all, the most talented and outstanding geniuses of the Xia kingdom are sitting inside the train. And Xi thought that he used his intuition to find them. There are indeed several strong guys among them, but no more than 5 who can withstand more than 3 of his blows. An alarm was sounded over the loudspeaker. The train had been attacked by an unknown enemy. The information was being verified. The passengers were skeptical. This couldn't be true. Who would dare attack Huadu University? Maybe it was a test or a training alarm? Shuju took out his sword and asked Yi Shi what he thought about it. The young man replied that he was annoyed. He had been training hard for the last few days and now just wanted to rest. Yi He got up from his seat and suggested that his partner find out what was going on. A wounded young man entered the car. Yi Shi asked him what had happened. It was first-year student Zhou Jingxian. He reported that the enemies had already captured the first 3 carriages. The enemy possessed special abilities that drew people into an isolated space so that the aftermath of the battle would not affect the outside world. The terrifying enemies were pursuing everyone without exception. Almost all the teachers had died, and it was necessary to flee. This was not a training alarm. One of the passengers asked, "Is there any proof that it's really dangerous up ahead? Why is this guy the only one who got out?" His friends from other cars are strong enough to compete for the title of best freshman. It was freshman Yan Jung-song. Jung-song added that he didn't believe his friends couldn't get out. Many assumed he was moderately right and expressed a degree of reasonable doubt. Yan Jung-song said that he would personally go to check. Hongxin continued to insist that it was very dangerous there. The protagonist thought that there was definitely something wrong with this student. Fu Hongsheng said that a girl named Liu Qingzhu showed him a photo of the champion. She said that this guy should be found and warned not to go to the first car under any circumstances. Hongsheng added that Qingzhu had protected him by taking the blow herself. The freshman burst into tears and said that he couldn't stop those guys who were looking for death, but he had to fulfill the girl's last wish and help Yi He survive. Li He got angry. Qingzhu is still alive. How dare he talk about her last wish? Chuzhou asked, "Does Yi Shi really want to go there no matter what?" The protagonist replied that he had promised her parents. Hongxing stood in the doorway and shouted that he would not let the young man pass. Yi Shi was surprised. How did someone so weak even get into Huadu? Fu Hongsheng said he was trying to save them. Why are they taking up arms? And he punched the guy in the stomach and told him to shut up. Hongsheng said it was powerful and added that they were on completely different levels. He apologized and offered the guy a pill with key essence. Yihe opened the door to another car and saw a strange glow inside. The young man suggested that this was the entrance to an isolated space. Yihe grabbed the first suitcase he could find and threw it inside to see what would happen. The suitcase disappeared into the isolated space. Li He thought that there was no reaction. Even his field couldn't detect any energy inside. The protagonist said it was safe to enter and took a step forward. Yihe saw a glowing road in front of him. Who could have done this? Yihe looked around. Chuzhou had disappeared somewhere, even though they had entered here together. The young man decided to reach the light that was ahead. The protagonist was surprised to find himself in the center of a ruined city. What was going on here? The field did not respond. Was it blocked here? Y activated the explosion so that those who were following him would not try to play games with him. People began to peek out from different floors of the ruined building. Where did this explosion come from? What is going on here? Who is this master and why is his appearance so pompous? Liu Qingzhu immediately recognized that Yi Shi had appeared. The injured girl thought, why did Yi Shi come here? Yi He thought that he had attracted the attention of not only his classmates, but also his enemies. A monster appeared behind our hero, a pig head with a sword in his hand. Yi He attacked this monster and said that he would now tear the mask off his head. Li He was surprised to see that nothing happened to his opponent even after his attack. The pig head stabbed the protagonist in the stomach with his blade. The young man smiled. He did not expect his regeneration to be so fast. It turns out that he can block his opponent's blade with his muscles. He opened the monster's mouth and said he wanted to admire something inside. Yitter off the monster's head and said that he had kept his word. After all, he had promised to destroy it. Meanwhile, the blade continued to stick out of the young man's stomach. I took a pendant out of the monster's mouth. The young man realized that this was indeed a test from Huadu. He had to destroy monsters and collect loot. Yi Shi said that the monster's weapon was reinforced with the aura of high-ranking martial arts masters, which made it extremely sharp. Once the aura dissipated, the weapon would return to normal. But what were these pendants for? The protagonist was attacked by another monster, which shot an arrow at him. He said that he hated ambushes the most and headed towards the attacker. The arrows continued to attack the young man. The shooting continued, and the protagonist's body was pierced through with many arrows. Blood oozed from all the wounds. Yi said that this was very naive and hoped to destroy the enemy in this way. The young man activated his modified gene, turning into a huge monster. People watching from the sidelines were surprised by the collapse of the house. What was going on there? Yi left the collapse zone, wondering who this guy was who shot at him so much. An armed monster roller suddenly appeared in front of our hero, and he thought, maybe these are the symbols of the year. The rabbit attacked the young man, but met with fierce resistance. Yi was surprised. Does this rabbit know martial arts? An ice wall was activated, and the monster rabbit was imprisoned. The rabbit looked around. It was surrounded by ice stones on all sides. Suddenly, Chujo pounced on the rabbit and told his partner to leave the animal to him. Chujo used his unique abilities, and under the impact of the shock wave, the monster rabbit was forced to fly far back. And he, in the form of a monster, said that he had finally caught the fluffy creature. A few minutes earlier, the people inside the ruined building wondered why it had suddenly become so quiet. Could the guy who broke in here have died? A woman said that the one who broke in and shot into the sky was too arrogant. Apparently, he was a student from the provinces who had enrolled at Huadu. Top students from big cities are on a completely different level. She had heard that many had already begun to destroy people en masse, although it was unclear how they were doing it. Definitely, this year's champion will be one of these students. Another powerful explosion rang out, and everything around was shrouded in smoke. The man was surprised. Was that an electromagnetic cannon? The woman said that this cannon couldn't have appeared here. The freshman who had gotten off the train also watched the flash. Zheng Song was among them. Wu Yangze said that the attack did not resemble the style of those masked people. Most likely it was the technique of a freshman. Zheng Song held several pendants in his hands and wondered who else could possess such power besides a few people from Huadu. They needed to go there and check. After all, they had already collected the pendants of the rat, dog, monkey, and horse. Wu Yangze noted that even Liu Qingzhu had managed to destroy the Minotaur and obtain the ox pendant. If there really were 12 animals, then only 5 remained: the pig, rabbit, rooster, tiger, and dragon. As for the dragon, touching this creature is life-threatening. It is a boss that one can only run away from, not fight. Wu Yangze suggested that the freshman who created the blue beam must have several pendants. This game has entered its final stage. Ji added that if they wanted to win, they had to take the pendants from the others. Looking at the pendant in his hand, Chujo asked, "What is this?" Yi replied that he had dealt with the guy in the pig mask and taken it from his head. There is a corresponding character on the pendant. It is necessary to collect all the pendants. Chujo asked, "So they're going to hunt down the guys in masks?" Yishi said that when he was on the roof, someone shot an arrow at him. It must have been one of those scarecrows. Most likely he got scared and ran away. Yiha added that the stranger's arrow had grazed him, so it would be possible to track him down. Yiha saw the tracks and guessed that someone had gotten here first. The ground was still warm. Yihi said they couldn't have gone far. The girl realized that her optical camouflage had been detected. A confrontation was inevitable. Chujo, chopping through the ice, said that someone was hiding in the shadows. This did not bode well. On the other side of the ice floes was the girl. Freshman Lan Yusi looked in surprise at the young man with the fire demon battle form gene. Shinshin said that Lan Yusi had been discovered. Her camouflage was too weak. Yishi asked the young people, "Did you set up an ambush?" Yusi said that he had misunderstood. They had dealt with the guy in the rooster mask and then hid here to lure the others out. Yishi grabbed the girl by the neck and lifted her off the ground. He asked what this meant. Lan Yushi was discouraged. This guy was even able to figure out her clone. It seemed that he was not simple at all. Shinshin said that now it was his turn and took a deep breath, which he then released in the direction of Yi Shi and Chucho. Yushi told these people not to even think about running away. The girl began waving her fan, activating powerful air currents. Shinshin said that wasn't all and decided to add fire. Shinshin was pleased with the result and said that this guy wouldn't have been able to handle them anyway. Yiha clapped his hands and the fiery smoke dissipated. Shinshin was surprised. Was one clap enough to dispel the fiery cloud? Yusi thought that right now they didn't have the techniques to raise them to the rank of master. They were stuck at the apprentice level, and their physical strength was sealed by some kind of membrane. Even if the students from Huadu had a higher limit, they still couldn't rise above it. The girl thought that this guy was not at the level of a freshman. She completely forgot about the ice cube. Her legs were blocked in the ice. Yui realized that even with Shinshin's help, they would not be able to defeat the young man. The girl thought it was pointless to continue the fight. Lan Yushi turned around and ran away. Yishi grabbed the girl by the leg and knocked her to the ground. Yui broke free from her opponent's grip, and the young man realized that she possessed the secret technique of Zunhuang. Yishi activated the blood demons and said that she would not be able to escape. Yusi realized that she was trapped and couldn't move. Yishi laughed. This girl can't fight, and she can't run away either. She'll have to accept her fate. Our hero had 2 pendants in his hands. The girl said she surrendered and that the young man could take them for himself. Ishi said that if the girl had done so right away, nothing bad would have happened. He wants her to tell him everything she knows. Yushi explained that to win this test, you need to collect 12 pendants. She named the best among the freshmen and added that these guys are the favorites. Lan Yushi offered to take the young man to these guys. The girl thought that she couldn't win anyway, but she could pit them against each other. Yishi said that he liked her fan and added that the girl shouldn't worry. Young-se told his partner that Shinshin and Lan Yushi should have found them by now. Whoever wins, they'll just take your pendants. Jung-sung was very surprised when he saw the destroyed Shin-chen. A few minutes earlier, Shin-chen had been thinking that this guy was truly a monster. Yu was probably already dead. He would probably come back here since he had left a mark. Shin-chen turned around and saw another disciple approaching him with a blade in his hand. Shin-chen realized that it was a dragon. The dragon approached and destroyed the guy. The dragon had 2 pendants in its hand. Jung-sung was puzzled. Why did Shin-chen die here? Ze said that the dragon did it. It strikes perfectly without unnecessary movements. The opponent was much stronger than the deceased. Jung-sung asked in surprise, shouldn't the dragon be in the underground parking lot? Young-se said that he had taken 20 people with him, but in the end they encountered the dragon and only he managed to escape. She still couldn't believe that this guy had destroyed the disciples. Wasn't it supposed to be a normal test? But this blood didn't look fake at all. Jung-sung asked what to do now. Shin-chen's pendants had been taken. He added that the dragon could have left the parking lot because they could have fulfilled the conditions, to destroy everyone else in masks. In that case, the final boss could remove the restriction and act freely. Just as ordinary masks pursued freshmen, the dragon hunted those who had pendants. Young-se said that it was impossible to fight the dragon. Therefore, it was necessary to take the remaining pendants from the others first. She activated wings and said that now they need to send a signal, attract other pendant owners, and fight them. Lu Qingshu thought she had gone to Huadu University, but inexplicably, she was drawn into this eerie city. Many freshmen were killed by the man in the dragon mask. Together with the other survivors, they met a teacher who said he could only take one person out of there. The girl thought that she couldn't leave when something like this was happening here. She had to tell Yishi not to get involved. The girl wondered if the fleeing freshman had met Li He. She didn't have the strength to look for him. Li He shouldn't lose unless he encountered the dragon. The girl heard a noise nearby and assumed that she might have been discovered. In her current state, she couldn't run away. Her opponent had definitely detected her aura and would surely want to take her pendant. Young-se discovered the freshman Qingzhu. It seems she has a bull pendant. What a pleasant surprise. Young-se noticed that the girl was moving. Z decided that she wanted to lure him into the dragon's underground parking lot. Why was she so naive? The dragon had left, and the parking lot was already empty. Young-se told Jung-sung to wait for him. He was going to catch someone. Young-se flew up to the building and said that Lu Qingzhu would not be able to escape him. Ze saw the outline of a person in the darkness and thought it was the dragon, but he should be hunting those who have pendants. Young-se thought, if the dragon's target is people with pendants, then he has 4 of them. The dragon will go after those who have more of them first. Zhu decided that his self-confidence could be his undoing. Suddenly, Yang found himself in another space. Could the dragon really use such a power? The guy thought, as soon as you meet the spellcaster's gaze, you can end up in a special area from which you cannot escape unless you defeat the spellcaster. Could he really be here? Jung-sung decided to use the general voice chat to bring everyone here. Shuju told Yishi to leave this guy to him as he wanted to test his strength. Jung-sung said that he would not be able to catch him, and swinging his sword, attacked the young men. Shujo activated his ice sword and repelled his opponent's attack. Jung-sung summoned his energy beast and continued the attack. Jung-sung and Shujo fought with swords. Their beasts, a dragon and a tiger, provided support. Meanwhile, he was bored, waiting for the fight to end. Jung-sung sensed that Young-se was asking for help. His aura was screaming for it. Jung-sung stopped fighting and said that if he didn't have urgent business to attend to, he would have seen this fight through to its logical conclusion. His opponent rushed after him and said that after those words, he would not let this guy get away so easily. Jung-sung thought, did a monster just attack him? Ishii said it was him. His opponent's scream was unbearable, so he had to add a little more force. Jung-sung asked, was this guy waiting for him in ambush? Jung-sung decided to fight back, but was deactivated after only 3 minutes. Yi-hee told the guy not to be upset. Holding out for 3 minutes wasn't bad either. Shin-chen was deactivated after the first blow. and he took his opponent's weapon and said that it looked pretty good, so he wanted to borrow it. Chujo said that this guy didn't have any pendants, but he found something else. In Chujo's palm lay a constantly flickering thing that was sending some kind of signal. In a special space, the wounded Ouyang could barely stand on his feet. He didn't think he would last so little. Ouyang thought that he even had to use all the relics he had brought from the ruins of the secret dimension. If he hit the heart directly, then he could seal its power and energy transfer. So sacrificed his arm, but he couldn't do it and missed by just a few centimeters. The guy thought he had lost his last chance to defeat the dragon. The dragon finished off his opponent by stabbing him in the chest with his blade. Lu Xingzhu climbed the steps, with only a little left to the roof. The girl thought that the dragon was truly terrifying. The ugly bull was nothing compared to it. Ouyang would not last long. She might be the dragon's next target. Xingzhu thought that if she wanted to survive, she had to find a way to get Yi Shi here to save her. This was the tallest building. She could try using a signal flare. The girl activated the awakening of the bloodline. Demonic bird. Xingzhu climbed onto the roof but stumbled and fell. She was in a lot of pain. She hoped that Yi Shi would receive her message. Xingzhu heard a strange sound and looked down. A man wearing a dragon mask was approaching her, moving along the wall of the building. The girl was surprised. Had he found her so quickly? She needed to send another signal. He had to get out of there. The dragon climbed onto the roof and swung his sword at the girl. Suddenly, the protagonist jumped on the dragon from above and said that he had promised Qin Lan to look after her daughter, and he didn't make empty promises. He said that Zheng Song and Chuzhou were in East Alley. Qingzhu should go there immediately. The young man added that he would deal with the dragon himself. Yi Hui also found himself in another space. He realized that this was the work of the dragon. When he received the signal from Qingzhu, he immediately understood that something was wrong. Was this the only place where they could fight? Yi He saw a spike sticking out of the dragon's chest. Was this the plan to fight the dragon that Zhong Xiong had mentioned? The rivals crossed swords. Our hero thought that the dragon was acting very quickly. However, Yi He was looking forward to a good fight. Yi He transformed into a monster and said that he had finally met a worthy opponent. However, our hero believed that the dragon would not be easy to defeat. Li He decided to take a different approach and said that the invincible dragon was not so invincible after all. The dragon was attacked and losing its balance flew far away. The protagonist was surprised. After his opponent's mask was broken, his speed and strength increased significantly. The dragon switched to active offensive actions, not giving his opponent a second to catch his breath. At one point, the young man noticed that his sword was broken. However, he found a way out of the situation. He blocked his opponent's attack by grabbing his sword with his teeth. The young man said that this was how he caught him. He grabbed his opponent's arm with his clawed palm and said he wasn't done yet. Ishi switched to fist fighting and said that the technical specialist was at the dragon's service. Ishi thought that he knew many weak points in the human body. Since Ouyang spike pierced his body, the dragon's meridians were blocked and the flow of energy was disrupted. The blows mixed with evil energy and penetrating these important acupuncture points and meridians led to deep internal destruction. Ishii continued to hold his opponent's arm and beat him with his free hand. Yishai expressed confidence that the dragon would not be able to manifest. The young man added that the dragon had a chance to defeat him when he first appeared here and knew nothing. But the chance of victory was no more than 30%. Ihei struck another blow and released the dragon. His opponent flew up and exhausted fell to the ground. He shouted that it was not over yet. The attack continued. The dragon fell from the roof of the tallest building and damaging the asphalt fell onto the road. Ihoi said that this dragon turned out to be an ordinary worm. It wasn't that strong. The dragon's eyes lit up again. He raised his sword and said he had to destroy his opponent. The protagonist said that this was goodbye, and the dragon was destroyed. A pendant appeared in our hero's hand. The young man decided it was time to end the game. All the survivors waited silently on the roof of the building for the outcome of the battle. Qingzhu thought that they shouldn't have let Yishi fight the dragon alone. Chudo said that they would only get in his way. The girl thought Chuzhou was right. She was seriously injured and couldn't use her techniques. Suddenly, the protagonist appeared. He asked what the girl was thinking about. He asked if he could borrow her bull pendant. After receiving all the pendants, the young man decided to arrange them in order, from rat to pig. However, nothing happened. Chuzhou asked if the pendants were arranged correctly. Zheng Song said that the dragon was not thinking. He was just hunting for the owners of the pendants. To pass this test, the dragon pendant was not needed. After the pendant was removed, the plan worked. Jung Song said that they had just activated something. A huge eye appeared in the sky above, and he found himself in some dark place again, surrounded by emptiness. All the students were back on the train, and everyone was alive. However, their memories remained. But how did they get here? An announcement was made over the loudspeaker that the students had returned from the illusory dimension created by the Eye of Mirage. It was an introductory test for first-year students. Now they could relax. In this test, Yi He, along with Chu Zhou and the Qingzhou team, collected all the pendants and took first place. They showed outstanding results. The students began to discuss the results of the test and tell each other about their adventures. All the students wanted to get to know this Yi He. Our hero received information that he had surpassed all the first-year students in the Eye of Mirage test. The young man got a chance to draw a gene once. Li He thought that this time there would be no dirty tricks. The D-rank gene Vampire Rakud was acquired. Yi He considered himself lucky because he had drawn a super rare gold card. Although the lineage was slightly advanced, its form had the ability to stop time. It seemed unreal. Owen Z asked Yi He if he had really defeated the dragon. Jung Song said that it was not worth provoking this guy. There were no hospitals nearby. Yi He thought that he had not defeated the dragon, but destroyed it. Owen Z said that he was planning to start a new club at the university, different from the student council. He wanted Yi He to join him and was even willing to nominate the young man for president. She reached out his hand and said that Yi He's strength could provide an opportunity to break with tradition. He suggested joining this club. He refused and commented that he preferred to be a loner. He was not interested in fighting for power in the student council or creating a club. Owen Z said he understood and handed him his business card. The young man added that he would be happy to work with Yi He in the future. Finally, the train arrived. Wadu turned out to be as big as our hero had imagined. Young people on the platform began to leave the carriages. The attendant suggested that the university freshmen proceed to the campus through this exit. The students saw a flying machine of unreal design. The students were asked to board in order. Qinlan had previously told her daughter that even though they were engaged, they were not yet married. She should not behave too openly in public and allow the young man to take advantage of her. She had to protect herself. Qingzhu indignantly asked Yishi, who had approached her, "What are you doing? There are people here." Yishi asked the girl why they were continuing their journey by plane. Qingzhu replied that the university was in the sky because Huadu was the city of heaven. The aircraft arrived at Huadu University right on schedule. During the landing, the young man thought that the electromagnetic network was needed to protect against the invasion of demonic beasts. After entering this plane, even the size of the detection field decreased. At the aircraft exit, students were offered passes. He received his pass, looked at the photo, and checked the tactical and technical data. The students were told that they should go to the magnetic levitation station to take the train to the student dormitory. He said that they were now at the highest point in the city. I entered his room in the student dormitory and found himself in a one-room apartment measuring 100 square meters. Huadu students live in luxury. Next to the table was a state-of-the-art computer equipped with the highest level of technology, 516 gigabytes of RAM. He looked into the bathroom and was delighted to see a jacuzzi there. He lay down on the double bed and said he felt like he was in a five-star hotel. He said that it was time to stop relaxing and activate the Vampire Rakud gene. The young man exchanged real money for student points. The exchange rate upset him greatly. The guy thought that many things that are difficult to obtain on the regular market can be legally purchased on the student marketplace. This can be considered a privilege of Huadu students. The young man decided to purchase all the magic cores related to blood. A drone delivered the order to its destination. The young man was wished success in his cultivation. Guy opened the box and saw high-quality crystals. The young man decided it was time to eat. The Rakud's Crimson Catastrophe gene was unlocked. The young man looked in the mirror and decided that the effect was simply impressive. The young man opened his mouth and saw that even his fangs had sharpened. His nails had also become sharp and claw-like. Our hero had a crazy idea. He immediately dug his claws into his throat. Blood gushed out. Bleeding profusely, the young man approached the mirror again. The wound was bleeding. Blood flowed out incessantly. After a while, the bleeding stopped and the wound scarred over. The young man thought that the vampire's regeneration was quite good. However, the most important thing was his new power. Scarlet Catastrophe. And she thought that this was not surprising. In a world where martial arts came first, even student dormitories had training rooms. Yu-hee activated the red training monster. The young man wanted the monster to hit him. He also transformed into a monster with red roses on his head and shoulders. The sparring began. The flower man delivered one blow after another without pause. Yu-hee said it was very good. The blows were powerful. Now it was necessary to test the time stop. The protagonist activated Crimson Catastrophe, time stop. Everything around him froze. He noticed that the stop lasted only 5 seconds. He was not satisfied with this and decided to continue. The grueling training led to better results. The young man said that he knew it all along. 5 seconds was the limit of the original body, but not his. The next day came. After merging with the vampire gene, the young man began to hate sunlight, although he did not die from it like real vampires. Shujo asked Yi-shi if he had seen the change this year. The protagonist thought that he had been fighting Rakuda all night and hadn't paid attention to anything else. Shujo said that this year the university had changed its previous teaching method and adopted a group mentoring system. Each year, students study under the guidance of one main teacher, but can also receive advice from other specialists. Yi-hee said that in that case, they needed to find their own mentors. Shujo said that he needed one, but Yi-hee did not. The administration allowed the winning student to choose any mentor they wanted. A large crowd gathered in the waiting room. 3 students at a time entered the assessment room, and then the mentors chose their students. Iho told Shuchu to go in first. He would look around here for a while, because he could go in at any time if he chose a mentor himself. Iha left the room and thought that choosing a mentor was rather boring. Suddenly, the protagonist smelled blood. The young man ran in the right direction. If it had been the usual smell of blood, there would have been nothing strange about it. But this smell carried a hidden, ferocious aura and sin. It ignited the energy of destruction within. It was necessary to find the source. And he saw a girl from whom the source of the smell of blood emanated. The girl was trying to eat fast food. And he wondered, could this girl really have such a terrifying aura? The young man thought that perhaps he was mistaken. The girl asked the young man if he had mastered the devil in the flesh, calling him a baby. And he was surprised. How did she know that? The girl said that she had helped the little boy Hu perfect this technique. Our hero thought that the girl looked like a child but behaved like an adult. She even called him a little boy. Some of the young man's doubts disappeared. The old master said that it was indeed him. The girl said that Liu Chenghu had indeed been her student more than 90 years ago. She was indignant. That's impossible. A child who fancied himself a great master? Yishi thought that for masters who practice advanced techniques, it is not a problem to reduce their bones to the size of a child. But this girl is a real innocent child. Such a level is inaccessible even to world-class actors. The girl asked, "Does he still not believe me?" And he said, "If she is a master, then I am the Emperor of Qin." The next moment, the young man noticed the strange place he found himself in. What's more, his head was in a guillotine. A moment later, his head was lying at the girl's feet. She no longer seemed so harmless. Yi-shi was surprised. What was this strange hallucination? He felt a powerful thirst for destruction, and she wanted to shout, "A crimson catastrophe!" However, the girl put a piece of candy in his mouth and said that it was her favorite strawberry flavor. She only shared them with him. The girl apologized to the little boy and said she had gone too far. She didn't want anyone to find out. Now she only had a few hours a week, and that was very sad. And he asked the girl who she was. The child replied that her name was Gun Ki. She was a very powerful Grand Master. Yi-hee obediently knelt before the girl. Yi-hee thought that Gun Ki would help him become stronger. The Grand Master specializes in destruction. She is perfect. The young man said that he wanted to officially become her student and asked her to accept him. He did not expect that the deans of the 5 main faculties of the university would be the mentors this year. If one of them chose a candidate as their student, it meant that life had been a success. The freshmen did not know that the trials were being broadcast live. The audience consisted of all members of the Huadu faculties. The teachers watched each student's reaction. The students were evaluated on their combat intelligence, combat skills, and leadership qualities, which they demonstrated during the battle with the masked fighters. Yi-hee was the only one who received the highest marks in all categories. But that wasn't enough to shock the 5 deans. They were amazed by the destruction of the dragon boss, which wasn't even part of the test. The instructor said that Yi probably didn't even understand who that dragon really was. In fact, it was a model created by a supercomputer based on data left behind by a martial arts master decades ago. Even the supercomputer couldn't fully reproduce the master's abilities in the simulation. For 100 years, no one had been able to beat his records. The fact that Yi defeated a model trained on the data of this legendary man is proof of his outstanding talent. This guy is guaranteed to become a master, possibly even a grandmaster. We need to hold back our enthusiasm and wait until the young man officially chooses his mentor. The assistant reported the bad news to the deans. Yi chose his former professor, now a special employee of the university, Teacher Gun, as his mentor. Yi grabbed the girl and said he wanted to be her student, recognizing her as his mentor. Gong Ke said that she had already been expelled from the university. Yi said that if the mentor took him as a student, he would find a way to restore her freedom within 2 years. Gong Ke said that in that case, she agreed. The young man thought that his trick had worked again. The deans of the faculties approached the young man. Gun Ke said that the idlers who liked to meddle in other people's affairs had arrived. The dean said, "Didn't Teacher Gong say she wouldn't interact with students during walks? In her current psychological state, she is not fit to teach. Gong Ke must go home." Gong Ke asked the young man his name. The protagonist introduced himself. Gong Ke turned around and said that Yi would go with her. Li was surprised when he realized that the mentor lived deep underground. Gong Ke said that she had had problems for several decades and often hurt other people. That's why she was placed under the research institute. However, she has now learned to control herself, so she sometimes goes out for fresh air. Gong A said that this guy had a strange way of thinking. Shouldn't he be afraid? Li said that he was afraid that the mentor would suddenly cut him down. Ishii asked his mentor why there was a timer in this corridor. Gong Ke replied that the corridor must be crossed very quickly. As soon as she leaves, the countdown starts. If she doesn't return in time, the alarm in Director Hua Du's office will go off. Then the whole university will start hunting her down. Yi rushed after his mentor and managed to cross the line at the last moment. Ishii was surprised. There was a strong magnetic field here. His energy could not spread normally outside his body. This meant that any martial arts techniques would be significantly weaker. Gongko showed him her prison cell. To prevent her from escaping, they built a huge house. This house has everything: entertainment, training rooms, magnetic suppressors that block combat energy. Ishii thought that this was not a cell, but a luxury suite with all the amenities. There is a suggestion that Gong's mentor is pampered and cherished here. Rector Shi Jingwen was told some bad news. Yishi had just become Gong Ke's student. The rector said to leave this guy alone. They are raising someone who will be able to take on the future of the Jie Kingdom and all of humanity. Shi Jingwen added that when a true genius appears, their task is to support him and let him develop freely. For now, let him train with Gong Ke. The rector was also informed that Yishi and his mentor had entered the restricted area. So far, everything is fine. However, according to the analysis, Gong Ke still has a risk of more than 5% of getting out of control during prolonged confinement with another person. Yishi has a 90% chance of not being rescued, and after rescue, the probability of not surviving is 95%. The rector said that special class fighters are either people sentenced to death with enormous strength or martial arts masters with uncontrollable power. The state restricts their freedom in peacetime, but when faced with a real crisis, they are sent to the front lines as weapons of national importance. Faced with someone like her, Yi must be prepared to die. Otherwise, how can he walk the path of slaughter? Gongka said that it had been decades since she had taught anyone. She suggested starting with a duel to see what the young man was worth. Yi was surprised. Was the mentor really willing to lower her cultivation to the level of a warrior to fight him? Yishi prepared himself, warmed up, and said he was ready. The mentor also prepared herself. Yi thought that he really didn't want to end up on that guillotine again. The sparring began. Gun Ki immediately began attacking the young man's vital points. There was no question of a friendly duel. Yi calculated at least 5 ways to dodge, but each time the mentor hit him before he could move. Yiho saw only one way out: to attack. The young man activated his gene and changed his appearance. Gongku was surprised. Was her student trying to use the awakening of his lineage to simultaneously increase his speed, defend himself, and counterattack? The mentor appeared behind him and said she was sorry, but the kid wasn't as fast as she was. The mentor kicked him in the back, and our hero lost his spatial orientation. Bleeding profusely, the young man said that the mentor had no intention of holding back. Even the awakening of his lineage had been nullified. Gonki licked her lips and said that she hadn't tasted blood in a long time, and she admitted that he was no match for his mentor in combat skills. Now he would show her a forbidden technique and asked her to evaluate it. The protagonist managed to master the giant humanoid's Jin overnight. It was a powerful martial art. It seems he has become the disciple of a true monster. Gonka said that in that case, as a teacher, she must also demonstrate her skills. And she used the split form of the primordial humanoid, mechanical humanoid. Gunki didn't even blink or show any fear. The armor, developed based on Demola armor, imitates human flesh and is dozens of times superior to humanoid armor in terms of protection. The young man did not understand how his mentor was able to destroy it so easily. Gonkan asked if Yishi was hiding inside the armored suit. The protagonist thought that her detection skills were simply terrifying. He had completely shut down all the vital functions of his real body, but she still noticed him. The mentor told her student to come out before she pulled him out herself. Yi activated his split form, humanoid meteor. Yi acknowledged that his mentor's attacks were very powerful, but would she be able to break through? The young man strengthened his armor. Yi said that his nuclear breath would not easily melt his mentor, but he wanted to see how she would resist. He imagined and physically felt the barbed chains binding his body. The young man felt again that he was on the guillotine. Yi saw the crimson catastrophe before him again. The scarlet rose always frightened him. The mentor had pushed our hero to his limit. Once again, he was drawn into a space of thirst for destruction. This is not the real world, it is a mental illusion created by the thirst for destruction. To escape it, one must resist with spiritual strength. He opened his eyes and realized that he was lying on the floor. Gun-Ki saw that the young man had finally regained consciousness and said that his armor was incredibly strong. Yi-He got up and thought that his mentor had simply ripped him out of the humanoid's armor. The protective crystal created to protect the real body was pierced as if it weren't there. This is not something that can be done at the level of a master's apprentice. He asked Gun-Ki if she had cheated. The mentor replied that she had won fairly. There was no cheating involved. Gon-Ki admitted that she might have used a little more force than necessary, but she was super strong, so it was difficult to restrain herself. Gon-Ki promised that she would not break the rules next time. There was no need to be angry with her. She did not want the young man to leave. She had not had anyone to play with for a long time. He tried to calm his mentor down and told her not to cry. Li-He said that he had tried very hard to become her student, so he wasn't going anywhere. Gonko said she wasn't crying and wasn't going to. Yi didn't argue with her. The mentor said that she now understood how strong her student was. Of course, he was not at her level, but compared to most young men, he was clearly talented. They could begin training. What did he want to learn? Yi said he was interested in advanced techniques and wanted to know how the mentor was able to pierce the armor on his arm. Gonko said that this was difficult to teach. It could only be felt after cutting through enough objects. Humans, demons, or other objects all have a perfect point for striking, as well as a thread that can be easily cut. It can be called the thread of death, and she thought that the mentor's style was different from the dragon style, which was also good at cutting strikes. A dragon strike is overwhelming power and cutting sharpness. A master's strike is like a butcher's, with perfect accuracy, clean and flawless technique. The mentor said that it would be difficult to learn this. She advised him to first become a martial arts master. Without a solid combat foundation, the young man would not be able to master most of her techniques. Gonka asked if the young man knew the difference between a student and a master. It was not a matter of developing the body and spirit. Compared to students, martial arts masters acquire an important ability, inner vision. With its help, masters move from general combat training to detailed microscopic study. Thanks to this, they can see their own meridians, pain points, and internal organs. Through combat ki, masters strengthen themselves, expanding the limits of their bodies. First comes a strong spirit, then a strong body. Yishi did not expect teacher Gonkei's level of teaching to be so high. She rightfully deserves the title of professor. Yiho said he felt a clear improvement in his mental characteristics. This will give him a huge advantage at the martial arts master stage. Gonka said that advanced techniques and sciences are divided into 4 categories. Usually students at vocational colleges or lower-level schools only have access to unranked techniques. The advantage of such techniques is that they are easy to use. Hwadu students start with at least Shunhuang techniques. Tengang techniques are sacred relics. Most of them were found in secret dimensions or ancient ruins. There are less than 10 such skills in the entire world. Even at Hwadu University, there is only one such skill. With his current rank, the young man will not be able to access it. Gonka said that Yishi could learn the Disha technique. The mentor explained, the Sutra of Destroying the Heart of Bodhisattva is the Disha technique that she has mastered. The devil in the flesh technique was actually inspired by it. Yishi said he wanted to learn it. The mentor said they could start right away. The young man had to prepare himself to experience the space of destruction created specifically for this purpose. Yishi was surprised. Would he be sent to another space again? Gonka noted that she simply liked the smell of blood. After the lesson, Chujo asked how the first day had gone. Was Yi-hee tired? Chujo asked him to recount what had happened today. 10 hours earlier, inside the space of illusions, monsters attacked our hero. The mentor said that he was forbidden to use any martial arts or abilities. Only a knife could be used against the zombies. Yihei was surprised. How could he deal with so many undead creatures with a blunt knife? Gongki explained that he had to let his body remember the sensation, feel how the skin was cut and the bones were broken. He had to train his muscle memory so that he could instinctively determine the line of attack and strike the target's vulnerable spots as quickly as possible. Ishii said that now he understood everything and counterattacked the zombies. Gonku thought that practicing her Disha technique in the illusionary space was actually very dangerous. Most students were not even qualified enough to do so. If Yishi's spirit strength wasn't abnormally high, the thirst for destruction would have already consumed him. No wonder the rector called this guy the rising star of Hwadu. What would his future be like? After training, the young man took a bath. Only one day had passed and he was already extremely tired. No wonder this university was considered the best in the country. Yihe answered a phone call from Lu Qingzhu. The girl said that her mother had just sent what he had asked for. Qingzhu added that her mother wanted to thank him because thanks to him, she had taken first place in the freshman exams. Yihe said he would visit her later. The girl replied that there was no need to come. She would send everything by drone. Yihe asked who Qingzhu's mentor was. The girl replied that her mentor was Dean Bai. The mentor had noticed her potential and taken her on as a student. The girl asked who Yishi's mentor was. The young man thought it better not to say that he had turned down offers from 5 deans. Otherwise, the girl would not be able to sleep. 6 months passed, and the first semester came to an end. For the freshmen, this time was filled with many interesting events. At the beginning of the semester, Wu Yangzhe created the Dragon Blood Society and quickly gained influence among the freshmen. After the students returned from training camp, they had disagreements with this organization. As the conflict between the members of Dragon Blood and the students intensified, arguments broke out. As a result, they lost more often than they won, and the development of this society began to decline. The most famous freshman was Xiang Jianhui. This student was the best in the entrance exams at Hwadu. No one remembered about Yishi anymore. He had disappeared from view more than 3 months ago. The mentor said that her every step would fill the student with pure fighting energy. This energy would help him consolidate the level of martial arts master he had just achieved. Gonka asked the student what had happened. He hadn't even done 1,000 push-ups. Was he already tired? Ishii said that now he would demonstrate what he was capable of. He was not tired at all. Gonko shouted at the young man to hurry up and do his push-ups faster, and he thought he experienced new sensations. An explosion of bloody energy tore apart his old, worn-out muscles and replaced them with new ones, charged with fighting energy. He told his mentor not to peek if she decided to close her eyes. There was no need to look through her fingers. The protagonist decided it was time to end his seclusion. He had been here for 3 months, and it was time to get some fresh air. Gonka asked with tears in her eyes if her student would return to her. Li He promised to return and suggested that his mentor learn to play video games better before his return. Li He went out into the fresh air and thought that it had been 3 months since he last saw the sun. Even if he no longer liked sunlight, he still missed it. He felt as if an eternity had passed. But he didn't come out of seclusion just to take a walk. He had something to do. The young man thought that university grades included one very important component, assignments outside the campus. These mainly involved hunting wanted war criminals, researching secret dimensions, helping to defend against waves of monsters, and even fighting criminal gangs and foreign forces. And he decided that now was the time to pick up an assignment at the Student Activity Center and see an old friend. Shujo saw his old friend and said, finally he crawled out of his hole. I had to wait a long time for him. Shuju noticed that 2 months ago, he had advanced to the level of martial arts master. The young men met for the first time in a long time. Shujo saw no obvious changes in his friend's aura or physique. How much had his strength actually increased? 3 days ago, he was invited to watch a closed match between Xiang Jianhui, a representative of the first-year students, and ONZ, vice chairman of the Dragon Blood Society. ONZ lost in just 10 minutes. His opponent didn't even try to use his full strength. Would Yishi be able to fight him? Lu Qingzhu approached the young people and asked if she was late. The girl remembered her mother's advice that she and Yishi were considered an official couple. At university, they had to behave like a couple. Qingzhu blushed with embarrassment and asked if she really had to do what couples did. Yi He asked what Qingzhu was doing. They hadn't seen each other for 3 months, and she didn't even say hello to him. Li He was offended and said that she hated this guy very much. The big screen displayed information about recent assignments and the students who had completed them. Shujo said that he and Qingzhu had already completed 3 assignments, which was more than the norm. They came here just to team up with Yishi. Lu Qingzhu told our hero what these 3 missions were about. Yishi informed his friends that he had a special pass. His mentor said that the student could stand on his own 2 feet. He now needed more challenging missions to hone his skills. With this pass, the young man could take on any level of task on campus. However, he should not choose the 4th or 5th level, as there were too many variables. Qingzhu asked where Yishi got this pass. Shujo asked what his friend would choose. Yihei said that risk and reward go hand in hand. The young man added that if they constantly worried about danger and grew up in a sheltered environment, none of them would become martial arts masters. He was leaning towards the 3rd level mission. His friends agreed. At the reception desk, the girl was indignant. Didn't the students know that an entire squad had already been destroyed there? Why did 3 freshmen want to take on a 3rd level mission? They were clearly overestimating themselves. And Ji said he had a special pass. The clerk said she would contact her superiors, and they would figure out where this pass came from. After clarifying all the details, the girl smiled and wished the freshmen luck. She added that she liked their fighting spirit. Before carrying out the mission, the protagonist stopped by the forge of the Faculty of Mechanics and Magical Equipment. He told the dean that he had come to collect his prize for first place in the first test. The dean noted that it was wise to choose a weapon over technology. The dean showed him what he had created especially for this young man. This sword lacks elemental attributes, but its combat energy conductivity reaches almost 100%. The blade is forged from the famous ultra-strong special alloy of meteorite gold. It is a divine blade of the highest class. And Heya praised the saber, which was about 20 meters long with a wide, flat, but dull blade with sparkling spots. It resembled a starry sky and was a characteristic feature of meteorite gold. There are notches on the back of the blade that increase its weight and striking power, making each swing incredibly powerful. The handle was wrapped in non-slip black leather, stitched with meteorite gold threads to facilitate the infusion of ki. Each strike is accompanied by a howling wind and a flash of light. It makes your blood run cold. Yihai admitted that it was a very good blade. The weight was just right, and it fit well in his hand. The young man did not think that the blade would be able to adapt to his current strength after reaching the level of a master. She had to admit that the university's blacksmith was simply incredible. Chudo said that they needed to keep their mission a secret, so they were here as students who had come for an internship. He decided to first scan the area with his field to cover the entire city. The protagonist was worried that their arrival might scare the rats away. If they scattered, it would be a problem. Destroying them would not be difficult, but finding them would be hard. Shujo suggested looking at the accommodation provided by the university. A local resident offered to drive the young people and asked where they were going. Iho said that the mission was beginning. The driver of the vehicle noted that these young people looked like students. Had they come on vacation to relax? Li He admitted that they had come with friends to have fun. The old man learned that one of the young people was a local and asked what family he was from. Yi He replied that his grandfather's name was Yi Shoujong. He had died several years ago. Before this mission, our hero had studied the local dialect, and the person he was talking about really existed. The old man praised the young man for not forgetting his roots. This meant that he would definitely be lucky in life. The young people were taken to the house of Yi Shoujong. It was the base of Huadu University. The old man explained that in 2 days, a grand event would take place in Lingshui, which happens once every 3 years. The young people must attend it. Shuzhou said that no one had lived in this house for about 10 years, so it was completely dilapidated. It would have to be cleaned up thoroughly. Yishi said that cleaning was his specialty and activated his unique abilities to destroy the local mosquitoes and weeds. Shuzhou suggested that his friends bring their belongings into the house while he installed many surveillance cameras around the house. Qingzhu said she would check the house. Qingzhu stood in the doorway and told Yihi to look inside. There was a shrine in the room, but the girl wasn't sure who or what it was for. It hadn't been there before. Yihi said that the shrine was made of wood. If it had been there all along, it would have rotted long ago. There was a lot of dust on it, but if you wiped it off, it would be like new. Chudo said that someone had brought the shrine here. He didn't like the statue and suggested destroying it. Qingzhu told Chuchu not to rush. It could be an important clue, so it needed to be checked. Yishi said he agreed. The girl was frightened. What did this maniac agree to? Qingzhu suggested at least checking what was under the cloth. The girl lifted the cloth and immediately pulled her hand back. She saw a glowing eye. He asked, "Is something wrong?" Our hero told Chuzhou to immediately destroy the statue. The young man responded by swinging his sword. Surprise appeared on the faces of the young people. Something black began to ooze out of the statue. What was this slime? He activated Crimson Catastrophe and said that there was no escape from it. Crimson Catastrophe grabbed the dark creature and lifted it above him. Iki told the Shushuto, "Seal this thing immediately." A frightened Liu Qingzhu asked what it was. Yishi asked the girl if she was okay. The young man thought that this creature had infected Qingzhu with its darkness. He needed to transfer some pure fighting energy to her. The girl felt that her fear had suddenly disappeared, and a warmth appeared inside her. Iha suggested that the anomaly in Linshu was related to this strange statue. They had just taken the first serious step in their investigation. Ishi told his friends to stay here and watch the seal in case something changed. The young man added that he had something to do. The protagonist hung a beacon on the driver. If he had calculated correctly, now was the time to use it. Linshui County Jinshin Buddhist Temple. The monk opened the door and told the old man that the abbot was waiting for him inside. The old man followed the monk, and they found themselves in front of huge stone doors. The monk informed the abbot that he had brought a benefactor, Liu Gensheng, who had achieved the standard of blessing. This man wanted to say something. The old man bowed, waiting for an audience with the abbot. A voice asked why the benefactor had suddenly decided to visit them. The old man was surprised. Was there someone else here? The old man was terribly frightened when he saw that the monk had turned into a monster. The guest knelt down and began to repeat, "God is among us." Suddenly, Yihi appeared. He immediately attacked the monster, kicking it in the head. The young man called it filth and added, "It's good that we have the Scarlet Catastrophe Shield. If this filth got on my clothes, I would never be able to wash it off." The old man asked the young man if he was a member of the Li family. Our hero looked up and saw that the Buddha statue had begun to move. The Buddha statue prepared to attack Ai. "Hi." The young man called on the Crimson Catastrophe for help. Ai decided to switch the spatial ring to invisibility mode so that his enemies would not detect him. The young man also activated the star blade he had received at the university. He repelled the first wave of attacks, and the Buddha statue was partially destroyed. The statue directed laser beams from its eyes at the young man. Yihi thought, "Is this really a Buddha statue?" The young man dodged the attack and said that the lasers were too slow. The protagonist decided to check what was inside the statue and attacked it, striking it in the stomach. After this attack, the Buddha statue and the old man were separated into pieces. Hia realized that the statue and the old man were not alive. From the very beginning, he had not sensed any life energy from these two beings. The young man was surprised. Where did such advanced technology come from in such a remote place? The guy understood that the answers were behind the door and tried to open it. Yiha told the Scarlet Catastrophe to knock on the door. The young man added that he was a university student and had a basic knowledge of etiquette. Before entering, one must knock. Li He formally asked, "Is anyone home?" After that, the doors were broken down and he went inside. The young man realized that he had entered a secret room, although in reality it was a real underground palace with a giant statue inside. Li He said that the guests were already there. Was he going to continue hiding like a rat? A monk came out from behind the statue and said that their temple had no quarrel with the young man. Why had he come to desecrate this temple? He thought that this robot was too carried away with his role as a human. The monk looked closely at the young man and said that the benefactor had a lot of destruction on his conscience. Li He told the monk to shut up immediately. He was annoying. Yi He thought that this place resembled a sewer. There were 18 passages here. Could these be sluices? Glowing dots appeared from the dark passages. Yi took out his sword and thought that there were a lot of lizards in this dungeon. Each creature emitted a wave of energy like that of a first or second level martial arts master. They had similar life energy, as if they were mass-produced. The protagonists suggested that they might be biorobots. The young man swung his sword and used the Shunhuang technique. The skill first form, Great Extermination, was used. Huge biorobot monsters filled the entire space, and she was surprised. What kind of normal temple keeps so many ugly creatures underground? After a short time, all the creatures were destroyed. Our hero stood tall above a mountain of motionless bodies. The biorobot's head repeated that the benefactor had a lot of destruction on his conscience, and he asked, "Doesn't the puppeteer want to finally show himself?" The huge statue moved and said that the benefactor could not escape. The young man was surprised. Could this statue even transform itself? Information came in that an energy surge exceeding acceptable levels had been detected. Part of the body was beginning to overheat. Yash transformed into a summoned beast using his gene and attacked the statue. The young man said that he was not finished yet and offered to try his steel-hard knee. Another alarm signal was received. Multiple damages to the skull block were detected. The huge statue was disoriented, its body temperature was rising, and its coordination was impaired. The statue activated the cannons located throughout its body. All guns were fired. The statue did not understand what kind of monster was in front of it. Many weapons had to be used. The summoned beast said that these toys were nothing more than ordinary firearms. They were useless against a martial arts master. The statue told its opponent not to cling to life. Now it would have to put him to sleep. The humanoid meteor was activated, and Hai said that it was time for the false monk to rest and use the blue beam of destruction. Nuclear breath was activated. A huge hole appeared in the mountain. The mechanical lizards were destroyed. The young man said that the chief megamind was a typical mad scientist. Yi approached the hole that had appeared and said that it was a passage to a lower level. What could be hiding there? Half an hour earlier, people in white coats were watching what was happening in the temple on monitors. The man told the doctor that the man had dealt with the mechanical guard at the door, but there was no need to worry. He definitely wouldn't get through their doors. They still had an army of cyborgs. Tens of thousands of bio-devices could wear down even a great martial arts master. They will also be able to get rid of the excess number of cyborgs. The man told the doctor that they had another trump card. They had to trust the latest development. The doctor shouted at his colleague to be quiet. He could see everything himself. Dr. Feng understood that this man was already on the verge. Why pretend that everything was fine? The guards above could only buy a few minutes. Dr. Feng ordered an immediate retreat. As soon as they got out, they had to activate the base's self-destruct mechanism. They couldn't let any information leak out. Dr. Feng was a former employee of the Prometheus Level 3 Research Institute. He had been secretly absorbed by the laser bird. 10 years ago, the laser bird targeted the unremarkable county of Lin Shui, quietly replacing all the monks in the temple. They used the faith of the local people to begin brainwashing and establish control. Under the pretext of blessings, they lured residents into body modifications, turning them into free test subjects and providing the laser bird with materials and clinical data. Suddenly, the roof of the building was broken through and Yi Shi jumped into the doctor's room. The young man said he wanted to meet with the abbot. The assistant shouted that the doctor must be protected. Armed security guards rushed toward the hero. The young man was taciturn and decisive. Within seconds, the guards were deactivated and lying on the floor. Yi He approached Dr. Feng. The doctor asked what the young man wanted from him. "We can discuss everything," he added. The doctor had a remote control in his pocket. With one press, he was ready to activate the self-destruct mode. Laser bird implants microbombs in every key researcher or manager. Families and friends are also under surveillance. This is how the organization achieves absolute obedience and keeps everything secret. And she beat the doctor to it and grabbed his hand, knocking the remote out of it. The doctor screamed in pain, and the young man grabbed his head and covered his mouth. The guy said he wanted to know everything that had been done in Linshu. Yishi asked Dr. Feng, "Did you destroy those young martial arts masters? What are they doing here?" Dr. Feng replied that he could not disclose the experiments. A chip had been implanted in his brain. If he revealed key information, the bomb in his body would detonate instantly. The old man thought, if he was destined to die, let it all end quickly. He bit into the capsule installed in his tooth. The doctor's eyes rolled back, and foam flowed from his mouth. And he realized that the doctor had bitten through the capsule hidden in his mouth. The young man thought, are the employees of Laserbird seeking their own destruction? The doctor's heart stopped, and the self-destruct mode activated. Yihei felt sorry and said that death in his presence was not guaranteed for the doctor. He tore open the doctor's chest and reached his heart. Vampires can turn people or the dead into undead creatures. After the transformation, with the exception of a few individuals, most are no different from zombies. No regeneration, low intelligence, rotting bodies. However, our hero had a primordial humanoid. He combined it with the power of a vampire. The doctor turned into a man who called the young man his master, and he could create servants who were not afraid of sunlight, possessed powerful regeneration, retained memories and skills, and obeyed him unquestioningly. He said that the doctor could no longer die, so self-destruction had to be deactivated. From now on, he would call this man Mad Doctor. His past did not matter. His only task was to serve his master. The Mad Doctor said that serving his master was an honor for him. Yishi noted that now there was a mental connection between them. The young man asked how they had gotten into the city. The doctor said it wasn't even lunchtime yet. Why did Shula sneak out to eat? Did he finish the data from above? The assistant with a bloody face held a human hand in his hand and replied that he was very hungry. The doctor asked, "Is it raw meat again today?" It was difficult for him to chew. It was pure torture. There were human body parts on the plate in front of the doctor. The assistant said that the locals had sent the offering. These three guys weren't from around here, and their meat was very tasty. The doctor was surprised. Had these people fallen asleep again, right in the prayer hall? Some were even on their knees. The assistant asked, "Isn't that perfect? We can send these people straight to the lab. It saves time and effort." The doctor prayed to the statue and repeated, "The kingdom of heaven." The doctor looked at his hand and saw numbers on his wrist. Why did this number appear? It looked like a numerical puzzle. Answer, a string of code, the company's internal file format. A message appeared on the monitor screen stating that the document code must be entered. The doctor was terrified. Everything was completely different. His memories and perceptions had been altered. Who did this? Who turned him into a test subject? A lab rat? Only when he saw the files did he understand. The numerical puzzle had been left for him before the intrusion. He believed that even with his distorted consciousness, he would be able to solve the puzzle carved into his body and understand what was hidden behind it. Cannibalism, increased drowsiness, a creepy clay statue, and who was behind it all? The cult of the heavenly kingdom. And Ji asked, so the raw meat was human flesh? Heavenly Kingdom sounds like the name of a regular cult. The man said that this place was the secret base of the Laserbird, but the cult had quietly infiltrated them and taken control. People's minds had been rewritten, and they had been turned into puppets. The man added that he had been in charge of Linshui County for 8 years. The Jinshan temple base was complete, and the biohumans were almost ready for mass production. This would mark the beginning of a new era. Martial arts masters would be replaced by stronger and more efficient biomachines. Prometheus was right. After the anomaly appeared, the investigation revealed that the outbreak in Linshui occurred in February. They were first discovered in March, and experimental research was organized. The man added that every day his perception changed imperceptibly until he was completely assimilated. Despite this, he found a logical loophole many times and successfully regained consciousness, but could not escape the fate of a subordinate. The research base in the temple has already been captured, making it difficult to escape or resist. The will of the anomaly in Linshui County is divided into 4 stages. cannibalism, drowsiness, worship of statues, and mass sleepwalking. Cannibalism is a change in the body after the first exposure to the will. Excessive drowsiness is a deeper change in consciousness. Worshipping statues means that the body and mind are severely contaminated and almost incurable. Mass sleepwalking means that a person has already become food for the will. The doctor thought that illegal experiments on humans were vile, but the cult was far beyond that. They want to feed the entire city to this will. Later, he found out that they most likely used a demonic embryo brought from the ruins of a secret dimension. According to calculations, the embryo would mature in 2 days. And she remembered the old man's message that in 2 days, a grand event that happens once every 3 years would take place in Lin Shui. He thought that the old driver had told him something important. Our hero retrieved useful memories. This base really belongs to the laser bird. However, there is also the cult of the heavenly kingdom, the embryo of a demon. It is also necessary to find out the whereabouts of the 3 martial arts masters of Huadu. Thanks to this, the man helped the young man learn several secrets of the laser bird, including illegal experiments. Yishi realized that there was something unexpected. During his lifetime, he participated in the research and development of the golden gene, understood how to use it and how effective it was. He would have to think about this after completing the mission. Yiho fulfilled the requirements and revealed the truth. Now the mission can be completed, but he is not concerned about the reward. The young man decided that he needed the fruit of the heavenly kingdom. Yishi told the man to hide at the exit of Lin Shui. He added that he would give him blood, and the man had to find a way to add it to the water supply system. The infection had to be spread as widely as possible. The man was delighted and said that this was pure madness. He understood his master. His master was going to fight the demonic embryo for the believers. And she thought that the residents of Lin Shui must already be in the 4th stage of infection. There was no turning back. It would be selfish to convert them to his faith, but when it was all over, he would try to return them to their former lives. Under his control, they would not harm society. Yishi returned. His friends were eating at the time, and he reminded them that this food was from Lin Shui. Shuzhou said that they had also scouted the situation. It seemed that the townspeople were eating people. The consciousness of the entire town was distorted. Something was enslaving them. Lu Qingzhu was surprised. Could there really be an illegal laboratory operating here for many years? Chuzhou realized that a large biotechnology organization had been engulfed by the anomaly. Qingzhu noted that this was no longer a level 3 difficulty and suggested calling Huadu for backup. Yi was against it. The hero reassured his friends. The task was only difficult because of its strangeness. It did not threaten their safety. There was no need to get worked up. Yishi said they would stay here until nightfall. They had seen raw flesh, idolatry, and another anomaly they had never encountered before: mass sleepwalking. He added that perhaps the city would reveal its true face after dark. This needed to be checked. Laserbird headquarters, Sidu, conference room. A man reported that half an hour ago, a signal was received about the self-destruction of the base in the Jinshan Temple. A few seconds later, the signal was canceled. Communication with the base was lost. The man added that it was better to destroy the excess than to leave witnesses. It was necessary to detonate a bomb in the heart of each researcher so that they could not testify, then immediately send a special unit to Lin Shui. The water at the station was normal. Everything was functioning as usual. Suddenly, there was a powerful explosion. The man reported to his boss that the laser bird had just tried to detonate a bomb in his body. Fortunately, he managed to remove it. The special forces would arrive in a few minutes. Lin Shui Railway Station, platform number 2. A man named Sam got out of the car. He noted that the place was quiet. No wonder the company chose it for their secret base. A woman's voice sounded behind Sam. Head office has confirmed that the Great Dragon Xia is not connected to the incident at the base in Jinshan Temple. It was White Sheep. She had a small child in her arms. The woman added that the company had too many enemies. Golden Snake and Bluebird also got out of the car. They decided to get to the base first. The Black Lion said that all equipment and records must be destroyed. Someone suggested eating. White Sheep noted that they needed to find a place to feed the baby. They were all professional killers. Black Lion said that they were a group of true professionals. They could easily blend into the crowd and remain unnoticed. He added that they needed to split into 2 teams. One team approached an old 3-story house on the outskirts of town. Golden Snake looked into the pot and said that something was clearly wrong with this town. People eating other people spoils the mood. Bluebird noted that the task would not be easy. She was interested in the statue by the wall. The Golden Snake reported that the cause of the incident at the base was clear. A powerful martial artist had destroyed the entire base single-handedly. In the dungeons, there were thousands of bodies of biohumans, and the combat machine was torn to pieces. There were no survivors. The base commander was missing. Golden Snake looked out the window and saw strange people approaching the house. He was surprised. Could this be mass sleepwalking? He said they had been discovered. Suddenly, the Bluebird stabbed his partner in the stomach with a long knife. The Golden Snake knelt down, looked at the girl, and said that her eyes were controlling her. Indeed, the girl's eyes were glowing. He saw that the idol in the sanctuary was also glowing. The young man was surprised. Could it be the moon nightmare Belos, brought from a secret dimension? Against the backdrop of the large moon, the silhouette of the young man could be seen on the spire of the bell tower. He looked back and said that the moon was very large today. He added that his life field was easily reflected. The young man took out his smartphone and marked the location of the crowd for Chuzhou and Qingzhou. The lunatics are in the southeastern part of the city. If mass sleepwalking is the very will, what does the feeding process look like? The Golden Snake opened his eyes and saw that he was tied to a pole. Next to him was the Bluebird. There were many naked people around. He noticed the glowing eyes of the locals and realized that they were also under control. The Golden Snake shouted for the Bluebird to wake up. It was time to come to their senses. He said he belonged to an influential organization and that they could discuss everything. But it was useless to talk to these people. The young man realized that they had been brainwashed to stop being human. Beasts in human form, perhaps worse than beasts. These occultists fear nothing. They are not afraid of pain. Suddenly, a bell rang. The golden serpent turned his attention to the huge moon. After the bell rang, people began to climb on top of each other, trying to reach the moon. A tower formed from human bodies, its spire reaching toward the moon. The zombified people lifted the golden serpent and the Bluebird to the top of the tower. At this time, the Black Lion was unable to contact them. He decided that something had gone wrong. Probably whoever destroyed the temple had made their move. The Black Lion assumed that something serious had happened in the city. It was necessary to seize the initiative and take control of the situation. The squad of killers left the building and were surprised. Why was the moon so big in the sky? The white sheep pointed to it and urged everyone to look. The moon seemed to be glowing, and a beam of light was shining down on the city. The Black Lion did not understand what it was. The situation with the Jingshan Temple was not as clear-cut as the bosses had thought. The group of assassins moved in the direction of the moonbeam. Perhaps that was why their colleagues were not responding. Black Lion sensed someone nearby and threw his dagger. The dagger hit an open umbrella and flew off to the side. The bright beam hit the wall of the house, and a crack appeared at the point of impact. Black Lion realized that this was a magical weapon. They were not dealing with an ordinary person. He saw a girl with an umbrella in her hand. She asked who he was and why they were being attacked. The Black Lion thought that, judging by her clothes, she was not a local. Could she be the parasite who destroyed the temple? Sam shouted that these pests must be destroyed in 3 seconds. Chuzhou appeared in front of the girl with a sword in his hand and stood up to defend her. Some approached Jingchu and said that he was sorry to destroy such a beauty, but he would definitely enjoy her corpse. Chuzhou struck and shouted, "Pervert, get out of here!" Some flew far back. Chuzhou activated the ice wall. The Black Lion used a martial arts skill, and the ice wall was destroyed. Chuzhou said that their opponents were at least high-level martial arts masters. They needed to retreat. Jingchu agreed. Unexpectedly, the Black Lion caught up with the young people and said that there was only 1 second left. He had sharp knives in his hands. He managed to jump aside just as a huge blade plunged into the ground in front of him. That was close, thought Black Lion. He looked back and saw Yi He. "Is this guy with those two?" asked the killer. Yi He replied that he was here to destroy these killers. The Black Lion activated the skill. The art of the killer, 12 phantom bodies. However, Yi He was elusive, and the killer couldn't even touch him. Our hero summoned Crimson Catastrophe. He said that the QI protecting the body of the great martial arts master could withstand even tank shells, but it could still be destroyed. The young man added that there were 12 excellent clones in front of him, and it was impossible to tell which one was the real one. And he threw an energy spear at the Black Lion, the inconspicuous king of killers. The spear pierced his body and the killer fell. The black lion was destroyed. He picked him up by the head and said, "It's better to do this while the body is still warm. His blood will turn me from a student into a martial arts master." He squeezed the blood out of the body and said, "Not bad. Now I have reached the 8th level of mastery." Sam didn't understand what had happened. This boy had destroyed their commander in a second. White Sheep noted that he had even managed to suck out the blood. He was a real monster. And she declared that he wasn't done yet. Now he would show them the most entertaining part. Demonic flesh, a bloody puppet. Black Lion took this as an order from the commander and got to his feet. White Sheep said that in that case she had a plan and threw the child high into the air. The child turned into a huge monster. White Sheep told the baby to stop the people. Sam shouted that they needed to hurry and suggested running away faster. And she told Chuzhou and Qingzhou to cooperate with his demonic shadow and delay this biohuman. He himself would go after the other two. Chuzhou activated the awakening of his lineage, Ice Demon Dragon. The Ice Demon Dragon swung his sword and rushed at the huge monster.